So the hour has struck 7. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to our virtual council meeting for August 17th, 2021. And welcome to what should be a substantial number of viewers and listeners tonight. We have quite a variety pack of highly important matters on our agenda tonight. And for that reason, we were just briefly discussing as we were setting up our systems that the time expectation for our meeting tonight will probably be a little bit more than usual in that some of the matters need some discussion and feedback. So that'll take the time as it should to do it properly. So to our millions of listeners worldwide, it's time to get yourself a drink and a comfy chair and enjoy the proceedings. So on that basis, we have quorum and we're good to go. I would take a mover to open the meeting. Moved by Councillor Viancourt, seconded by Councillor Lagasse, that this meeting be opened at 7:01 p.m. All in favor? Carried. Our last regular council meeting was July 13th, 2021, and there was minutes in our package from that meeting. Is there any issue with those minutes as circulated? And if not, I'd take a mover and a seconder for those. Moved by Councillor Foisey, seconded by Councillor Viancourt, that the minutes of the regular meeting held July 13th, 2021 be adopted as circulated. All in favor? Carried. Any disclosures of pecuniary interest and the general nature thereof? Hearing none. Presentations and delegations. Food Cycler Municipal Solutions. And we have information pre-supplied on that, but welcome, Christina, to speak to us regarding your initiative.
Hello, Mayor and Council. Thank you for having me this evening. Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Perfect. And would I be able to share my screen and presentation with you?
We're not opposed to that. Sometimes that's a challenge, but we'll see how it turns out.
No problem.
You okay to set that up, Andre?
Give me just a second.
Yep, okay.
I think you should be good, Christina.
All right, let me just see here. Okay, looking good. And are you able to see, oh, sorry about that. Let me just fix this. I apologize. All right, are you able to see the presentation that's up here?
Yes.
Wonderful. Okay, so thank you again for having me this evening. Apologies for those technical issues. My name is Christina Zardo. I'm here on behalf of Food Cycle Science on our Municipal Solutions team. And I'd like to do a presentation of about 10 minutes with a few minutes at the end for any questions, should you have any. So Food Cycle Science, we are a Canadian company. We're 100% focused on food waste diversion solutions using our technology called the Food Cycler. This is an in-home food recycler. We sell directly to consumers through our partners Vitamix and Breville, but we also sell to municipalities through our Food Cycler Municipal department. Our municipal solutions help mainly small, rural, remote, and northern communities keep their food waste out of landfills. We're currently working with 11 municipalities across our country, from Nelson in BC up to Hay River in the Northwest Territories, and several communities in Ontario, including Algonquin Highlands and Killarney. So the problem with food waste, of course, is that it is avoidable. It accounts for a large portion of our household waste stream, often a majority, and it's made up of mostly liquid, which is heavy and freezes in the winter. On top of that, putting waste in our landfills is harmful to the environment as it generates a harmful greenhouse gas called methane. And all of these factors make it so that waste is something that has a strong municipal impact. One of those impacts being that it takes up a lot of space in our landfills. And operating a landfill is costly for municipalities, so we want to extend the lifespan for as long as possible. The environmental impact, of course, is that it produces this harmful methane gas, which is many times more harmful than CO2 and contributes significantly to climate change. And in our communities, putting food waste in the garbage causes odors, which is unpleasant for us, of course, but it is very interesting for animals like bears and raccoons who love to rummage through our trash. Now, removing food waste from your garbage eliminates these issues and reduces volume significantly. So for the municipality, you save on disposal fees, you save space in your landfill, and for your residents, they need to make fewer trips to the landfill, and they'll spend less on excess garbage fees. Now, we often get asked, haven't we solved this already? You know, we have green bins that are common in large cities with dense infrastructure, population density, but this isn't a solution for everyone. Now, many people in your community might backyard compost. We think this is a fantastic solution, but it isn't for everyone. It's seasonal, it's labor intensive, and it's not something that gets rid of bears or other animals either. And then finally, the easiest solution, of course, is to continue landfilling your organic waste, but the long-term impacts, of course, are costly and harmful to the environment. So at Food Cycler, we've proposed a different way of dealing with our food waste by keeping it in the home, easy to deal with a fun user experience. We've built a small kitchen appliance. It's about the size of a bread machine. You put in your food scraps, and that does include meat, poultry, fish, even some bones. And in a matter of hours, you have a nutrient-rich soil amendment that comes out. You've recycled it into a sterile state. You've reduced weight and volume by about 90%. So the Food Cycler will process in its bucket on average 1 kilogram of food waste. And in a cycle, it takes about 4 to 8 hours to complete and uses less than 1 kilowatt hour of power per cycle. At the end, you have your dry, sterile, odorless soil amendment. You can then use that to add to your plants, your garden. You can put it on your lawn or in many other landscaping applications. The machine can be used anywhere with a plug, typically kitchen, basement, or a heated garage. From an environmental standpoint, the Food Cycler compares to backyard composting and central composting, of course, without accounting for transportation. You have an approximate reduction of greenhouse gas impact by 95% versus sending food waste to the landfill. Now, in terms of economic impact, our solution offers a return on investment by significantly reducing your waste management costs. In the short term, you have less disposal and lower operating costs. In the long term, you get many more years out of your landfill, and you achieve higher diversion without implementing any costly curbside programs. Now, one thing that we've learned from working with municipalities is that residents are interested in being part of the solution. They want to try new things, they want options, and to quote something I read in your blog post, residents want the government to take the required measures and are ready to participate in a fight against climate change. With the Food Cycler, you get to bring something innovative and tangible to your residents. Now, they don't need to live in a big city to be able to divert the organics. We think this should be available to all Canadians, no matter where you live. So on top of this social pressure, of course, is the impact of the regulations that are coming to us here in Ontario with the diversion targets that I'm sure you know are coming into effect in the next couple of years. So with the food cycler, we're focusing on that low-hanging fruit, pun intended. Since food waste accounts for such a large portion of our household waste stream, it's the most impactful strategy to achieving these diversion targets. I mentioned earlier that we're working with several municipalities across Canada. One example is in Nelson, BC. They ran 2 pilot projects with 250 households receiving a food cycler unit. The results were overwhelmingly positive, with an average rating of 4.5 out of 5 stars for the solution, and we achieved a significant diversion of food waste during that time. Following the success of these pilots, Nelson actually voted to put a food cycler in every home in their city of 10,000 people. So a few months ago, we were selected as a semi-finalist in Impact Canada's Food Waste Reduction Challenge. This is a 3-part initiative from the Government of Canada to reduce our country's food waste. As a semi-finalist, we were given a $100,000 prize and tasked with partnering with Canadian municipalities in our pilot programs. So we're using this funding to invest directly into programs in Canada. And we initially planned to do 2 rounds of pilots, one that started on August 1st, which was fully subscribed, and another in Q4 this year. But since we're almost fully subscribed for that, we're opening up a 3rd round, either late in Q4 or early Q1 2022. These pilots will help us move into the next stages of the challenge, which come with even bigger prize pools of $400,000 and $1.5 million respectively for stage 2 and 3. And those prize funds will go right back into programs for Canadians, and municipalities that partner with us from the beginning will have first right of refusal on funding for their community. So the pilot program typically runs as a 12-week project. Residents will purchase a food cycler from their municipality at a subsidized rate. They use the food cycler, tracking the number of cycles that they run per week. At the end, they get to keep the food cycler, and we ask them to complete a brief survey so that we can evaluate the program's success. This is a good source of data for valuable information to make future waste management decisions and to support the Impact Canada Challenge. So here's an overview of the funded pilot programs that we've laid out, including pilot size recommendations. For a municipality of your size, we would recommend a 36-unit pilot program to start. And the funded pilot programs work based on a subsidy model where Food Cycle Science provides a discount. We add in a federal investment from Impact Canada to get the price of the unit reduced by 50%. We then ask the municipality to subsidize the cost by $100 per unit plus shipping, so that the resident only ends up paying $150 for a $500 machine. And remember, after the 12-week pilot, the food cycler is theirs to keep. I'd like to highlight these are merely recommendations based on our experience. We can, of course, explore other program sizes or adjust subsidy amounts in a way that's tailored to you or your budget. But to give you a bit of insight, in Hornpain, which is a population of about 10,000 people, they went for a 36-unit pilot and are already oversubscribed with a waiting list. So we would welcome the Township of Banfield as a partner in this food waste challenge. We believe your community is a great fit for the benefits of this program. And I thank you so much for having me this evening, and I'm ready to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you. Is there any questions from members of council? Yes, Councillor Lagasse.
Thank you, Mayor McLaren. Christina, what a beautiful presentation, and I can see there was a lot of work and research done to create this this machine that we can put our waste in and have it decompose. I've been visiting a lot of the municipalities' residents, not only here, but throughout the region. And I've been finding that we all have the same issue, landfill site. And how we can manage it a little bit better. Some residents are not bringing their landfill garbage, their garbage to landfill anymore. They're burning it. They are reducing. And when it comes to their food waste, they have a green barrel in the back like I do. And I know your system decomposes it a little faster, but there are plants out there like the yarrow that I put in my decomposer that decomposes the food waste a lot faster than it like one yarrow plant will decompose a wheelbarrow full of waste in a matter of weeks compared to months. So there's things out there that municipalities, I'm not talking about the city, maybe the city needs things like, like your machine, but I don't think that our township would find it useful. But I wish you all the best with your project. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is there any other questions? Okay. Oh, yes, Councillor Vancouver.
I'm just wondering if they have any larger size, if they have something for like right at the right in our landfills. Do they have like a great big one? But that would take people to actually do the separation and putting it in there for the landfill itself. Do they have, just curious if you have a larger units or just household units?
Yes, Food Cycle Science does produce commercial size machines, anywhere from 80 liters to 1,500 liters capacity. It does need to be indoors and requires electricity. And then, of course, the material would have to be source separated so as to not contaminate the output.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Any other questions? All right. Well, thank you for your presentation. That was very interesting. I didn't know there was such a device, and the fact that it's able to be used in the home is quite convenient for. I would expect a more urban audience than we have, as Councillor Lagasse has alluded to. But it's something to think about. That's for sure.
Yeah, thank you for having me this evening. I appreciate the comments. We specifically tailor rural communities because of infrastructure issues with providing green bin collection. Mm-hmm. And of course, we're not looking to be an alternative to composting if you already do that, though it is complementary and will speed up that process. But I thank you for your comments very much and hope you have a great evening.
Thank you. No, the point of the bears and the other rodents of composting is not lost on us either. So your device has a lot of merit in that regard. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so we're going to move then to our next presentation of the evening, 4.2 on our agenda, the Community Housing Initiative Proposal. And just like magic on our screen, we have a number of presenters appearing. We'll give them a moment to get established. So I have before me Mr. Butler, Mr. Harriman, and Mr. Demi, and any of yous are welcome to lead off with the presentation this evening. Or are we waiting on other members to join us?
Your worship, we're waiting for Keith to appear on his iPhone, I guess, because he's leading the presentation. There he is now.
Okay, very good. Thanks.
Hey, Keith.
Hello.
Okay, Keith, the mayor has asked us to take the floor, so could you lead off?
Hello.
Yes, Keith.
Yeah, hello.
Keith?
Yeah.
Okay, the mayor has asked us to take the floor.
I can't see. I can hear you, but I can't hear them.
Well,
Okay.
nobody's talking but me.
Oh, sorry.
Mayor Randy, and perhaps you can hear us now. Are we getting audio both ways?
I can hear you, but barely.
We can hear you, and it looks like you're flying a kite somewhere or whatever.
Sorry. Yeah, I'm gonna just do audio then. Can everybody hear me all right?
Seemingly so, yes.
Yes, go
Sorry,
ahead.
Randy. Yeah. Listen, thanks very much for allowing us to do this presentation. As dysfunctional as I've created it, as you're aware, I'll first do the introductions. For those that don't know me, my name is Keith Harriman. I'm a planning consultant, and my partners on board are Dave Butler, is the financial planner, and John Demise is with Descon Construction. He's our developer slash builder. As you're aware, we've been working with Lise and her group for some time now, and we have secured a property on Eric Street. The property is zoned appropriately to allow the development of this project. We are at this point planning on building a 20-unit townhouse style building with entrances, separate entrances, and a little patio at the back. And we have community involvement. We have the bank committed to being on board with the financing, and we have in our opinion, we've done all the things that are necessary to bring this project to fruition, but we do require the support of the municipality. The Descon team and Dave and I have considerable experience in doing these projects all around Northern Ontario, and we're currently doing one in Mattawa. So we have the experience in pulling it together, and we believe the cross-section of the board members is a strong team with local representation, with Philip Potres as being the president, Neri Paquette being the vice president, Jessica Dion, the treasurer, Margot Olarski, the director, Marie Olette, the director, Darlene Hott is the director, and of course, Lise Eldred is the secretary. A combination of all of that, we've put a considerable amount of time in preparing a design that we think is appropriate for the community. We've done community surveys. We feel there's a strong enough waiting list that'll easily fill this building immediately. Our plan is to do the design work this fall, and of course, when the spring hits, we'll start construction. I'm going to ask John Demise if he'd just sort of step in and talk a bit about the what he's proposing for the design, and then Dave will take over and talk about the risk mitigation and the financial part of it. So John, are you there?
Hi, can you hear me, Keith and everybody? Great. Thank you, Mayor and Council. I appreciate the opportunity to present this project. My name is John Demise, principal in Descon group of companies. We're a design, build, and local construction management company serving the North Bay and surrounding area, and we have been for at least 25 years now. And our recent focus has been on helping communities deliver these type of turnkey affordable housing projects. We often will partner with a nonprofit type organization within the communities that are able to help champion these type of projects and deliver housing to their districts. And like Keith had mentioned, we're currently working on a few. One in Mattawa, 30 units that's being constructed by us there, and 50 in Powassan as well. And we develop a very close relationship with these the nonprofit organizations in order to help deliver exactly what they're looking for in the design and what they believe their community needs. And in this case, in our discussions with the Banfield nonprofit group, it was mentioned that there would be a need for the type of units that we've provided, which is more of a sort of a bungalow style townhouse for seniors in the area, so they can stay in the community once they get to a point where they don't want to have their own homes. So our design was kind of an all-in-one floor concept with a little bit of a front yard. You pull up to your front door with your vehicle. Kind of a horseshoe pattern, if you saw on the site plan that was provided to council, and a small patio at the back. So you still had your piece of a little piece of privacy outside, and the amenities for the suite would accommodate what the nonprofit's looking for, including some common laundry and meeting space. There's other opportunities for use for the common room for potentially community events and things that might serve the needs of the surrounding area. As you're aware, in the construction field, COVID's created quite a few challenges, and we've managed to work very successfully around these challenges with our nonprofits that we're conducting projects now, and we'll continue to do so with Banfield. Where the budgetary numbers are set, they're fixed, we guarantee it. So no matter what, we deliver the projects within their financial expectations, and we've managed to do that even through COVID. So we've been quite proud of that. And as we get through this project, the final concept and design, once it's accepted, if there is one accepted by the community, we would help them do the same thing and bring it to fruition on a predetermined budget. Then post-construction, once the building is completed, one of the things we also have offered, and we've been very successful at over the last 25 years, is providing full scope property management. So we offer the ability to help the nonprofits, if there's limited experience, get their building up to full operation, deal with in the first year, all the rental uptake and the, processing the applications, establishing the contractors and trades that do the small things like the plowing and the cleaning and that kind of stuff, and get them and establish, a set of books and records for them and get them to a point where it's able to be more easily managed. We've got, like I mentioned, many years experience doing that type of management. And then the timeline for this project, should it be something that the community and the municipality supports, we would hope to be able to break ground in the spring. So the idea would be to come to the table with some sort of all our studies, such as topographic and geotechnical and our hydrogeological studies in the fall, finalize all the detailed for construction design, and then spring break ground. So that's the construction side of our presentation for the nonprofit. And thank you very much for hearing that, and tells you a little bit about the actual project itself, the proposed project. And Dave Butler will now speak towards some risk mitigation and the financial elements.
Okay, thank you, John. Thank you, Mayor, Council, and anyone else who's listening for having us tonight. My name is Dave Butler. I'm an accountant by trade. I've been working about 15 years on these types of affordable and seniors housing projects. Actually, I've had probably 8 of them just working in Banfield, so I know all you guys quite well after all this time. And I might say that this kind of presentation is a little like vaudeville, you know, like you're behind the curtain and all of a sudden they throw you right out in the middle. The only good thing is I can't get hit by the rotten tomatoes you guys have at the end of this thing. So, but I must say that it's a good quality presentation. We've been at many of these things where you can't even hear or see the people, and this is quite good. Thanks. Hats off to Peter Johnson for setting that up. So before I get into presenting any of the financial review or any of the risk mitigation programs that we have, I just kind of wanted to explain and review in greater detail kind of the relationship of the parties and the stakeholders of this initiative or this project. Descon, Keith, and I act as a team to bring about these housing initiatives and bring them to fruition, and we hope to do that in Banfield. None of us own any part of the project, nor will we benefit other than the opportunity to build the facility for a fixed price. It's being built by the community for the community. So that's how these kind of projects actually work. So we envision that the nonprofit being led by Lisa's group own and operate the facility into the future with, I guess, some sort of strict governance policies and procedures and oversight agreements with the town. And all the contracts for financing and services will be with the nonprofit. So there'll be no additional liabilities or pressure put on the town as a result of the things that the nonprofit does. I guess in order for the nonprofit, I guess, to actually finance the project, they will need some help or some goodwill from the township in the form of some kind of limited guarantees of their mortgage for this project. They're not asking for any cash. They're only asking to leverage the township's goodwill to bring about this worthwhile project to the community. I guess hence the presentation today. So there's some, having said that, when we build these projects, and I guess this is like the really important stuff for a counselor sitting there listening to this thing. I mean, you've probably seen a million presentations before about someone who wants to do things and some of the commitments that the town have to make. But this one is somewhat different. Whenever we build these projects, we structure them so that there's a lot of mitigation for possible risk in the program, so things don't go sideways, and it's inherently built into the way we do them. So I'll just go through a few of them because I think it's super important just so people get the right idea. So number one, this is a fixed price contract. So in other words, Descon and our team have an agreement with Lisa's group to build this 20-unit facility for a fixed price, and we include everything but the kitchen sink, and that one package is being capitalized in the financing. So nobody has to go into their pocket, other than we do know that this nonprofit does have some soft cost funding that they've got from the community groups to be able to, buy staples and keep their infrastructure going until the project goes. But essentially it's fixed price, meaning that John's going to build this thing. He gives the number of 5.3 or $5.4 million, and it's signed in contract, and you better not come back and ask for any more money. I mean, he's reviewed it up and down for the last several years, and he knows that he can build this thing and he'll do it. So that's the first thing. It's fixed price, and that's rare to find these days because usually what happens is someone gives you a price, they lowball it, and they come back there. I didn't know it was that mucky, or I didn't know I need that much gravel, or I didn't know that the COVID was coming, or whatever. All those things. It's fixed price no matter what happens. I just wanted to mention that. The second thing is that it is turnkey. So all of the activities that are associated with building this thing and hiring consultants and getting appraisals and doing environmental and everything will all be put into that project. The nonprofit does not have the capacity to be able to develop projects or develop any initiative like this. It has to be done all as a turnkey project. So the other thing is that, that what's available also to provide risk mitigation is performance bonding. Descon is a completely bonded company. They can provide a performance bonding facility if it's required, so that there will be no defaults if Descon doesn't complete or walks away. This bond can be drawn upon by whoever it's made out to, and then hire another company to complete the project. The bonding, performance bonding, I don't believe has been built into the price as yet because, and that's something that's never been asked for, but it's there if it's available. Third-party verifications. Some skeptical people might say, how do we know we're getting good value for the price? How do we know that's a good price? Maybe they're charging too much, or maybe they're charging too little and they can't get the work done for that price. Well, the project, in order for the bank to finance it, they have to get somebody to do an appraisal on what this thing would be valued at when it's finished, because they're not going to finance something that costs too much. And they want to make sure that there's enough money in there to complete it. So project appraisals are a must, and we always do that. Other things that we do is get third-party PQS pricing verifications. They're also available if there's some people that are on the board or on the council or involved in the project need to verify pricing if they think their pricing is not in line. So those are available. We've had to use them on many different occasions, but sometimes it's not warranted. The other thing that's important is assignment of rents, and you have this list in front of you, so you can just follow along if you want. But assignments of rent, so as a stakeholder or as a guarantor or as somebody who's involved in the project, even the banks, things can feel safe and a little bit more secure because all those rents are assigned to whoever's taking some of the risk on the guarantee of the mortgages. So in other words, if Lee's in her group or nonprofit which decide to not pay their mortgage, the bank and or the town can just take over the rents and pay the mortgage. So that assignment of rent clause or contract will be in place. The other thing is that this nonprofit will have annual audits. One of the members, directors of the board is a CPA CA with one of the largest accounting firms in the Sudbury North Bay area. And so she will organize an independent audit of the operation in terms of not just its books and records, but how it does its business. So that's a good protection for the stakeholders. The stakeholders and the township can appoint its own directors on this nonprofit. And they can have a governance control or oversight agreement to make sure their wishes are being upheld by the nonprofit. The other thing is, I would suggest before anybody starts signing for any money at any bank that we have examined the waiting list and actually got names and numbers and people that want to rent this thing and deposits down on it, because you don't want to, lo and behold, get there and find out the place is vacant. So any decisions to move forward with the final financing should be predicated on this thing being just about full. And I think they're got like 12 people now, but I think that they have to be verified at this point. I know that Lee's inner group has started to talk about fundraising opportunities that will go towards offset some of the costs and build some reserves. I know that they wanted to do a joint agreement with the town of Mattawa, because Mattawa is doing a 50-50 draw, 50-50 draw, and I think that they were going to do it together. And some of these things raise a lot of money, so it might be a worthwhile project. Like John had mentioned earlier, that his company does property management. So for the first year, I think John's included in his price that he's going to have some guidance in terms of managing this organization and getting their books and records set up and getting them to show them how to collect rents and how to, how to operate, how to get contracts, and just sort of get this ball rolling on this thing. So that's super important, that you're not relying on the current nonprofit board members to go out there and hire the snowplow guys and the garbage removal and and the air conditioning systems and deal with all those trades, and that'll all be coached by John's team. And the other thing which is super important now is those guys are serious over there. They made an investment in the land. The land is already purchased. So there's so it's just sitting there and waiting to go. I paid $30,000 for it, and it's ready to be executed on. Now in terms of the financial guarantees, the township would be limited to the mortgage payments only if they were to entertain or agree to be involved in this initiative. And the municipality wouldn't be responsible for any other liabilities of the nonprofit. And that's kind of having this arm's length transaction by agreement. So you wouldn't be responsible for anything other than to pay the mortgage payment. So the financial structure that we put together, it's what's super important is to be able to build cash reserves. And the way we've set up the creative financing is that this group here will be able to have positive cash flow each year and to build a quite significant reserve based on the assumption of paying the certain rents in the statement and their estimated costs. So I'm going to go to the financial review section. I know I seem to be the long-winded one here. Has anybody got any questions or complaints or anything so far? Okay, well, I guess not. Can everybody still hear me?
Yes, it seems we can.
Okay, that's good, because I wasn't sure, because I feel like I'm sitting in a vacuum waiting for the big hook to come out. So, but that's good. So
No,
in terms of
you're on good ground yet.
Oh, thank you, Randy. I appreciate that. Okay, so the desk, in terms of financial overview, I think the Descon team, our team, myself, Keith, and John, we've been at this so long in Banfield that sometimes we feel like it's beating a dead horse, but I think we kind of got it now, and we understand what the community need is and the scope and size. There was discussions about being 50 units and 30 units and 25, and now we're down to an appropriate 20. That makes a lot of sense, because you go any smaller than that, just simply by the size and scale, you can't afford to pay for it. So I think they got that. The business model and the business case is super sound in terms of the financial components. What they've managed to do is essentially all of the let me just back up a bit. The estimated capital requirement to complete this, and you've probably read it, and there's roughly 5.372 million plus any applicable taxes. The HST is not going to have a big impact, because through the invoicing and development process, it'll be just a flow through. So when they'll set themselves up, so that they pay the HST because the bank won't finance that, and they'll pay down the HST and they'll recover it from the government. So it's just pretty much a flow through. There is some funds available to offset some of that that capital, which I've included in the financial statement. In-kind services from the Banfield municipality, I put down approximately 250,000. That could be some gravel, helping with something that the town has that they could leverage. I don't think no one's asking for any cash. They're asking for services that the town may be able to help them get some of this stuff done that John doesn't have to pay for in town. Like, I'm not saying this, but maybe building permits or some other things that could have a value that would help him not have to pay that. So that we put a rough number in there of 250. They have local business fundraising. Somehow somebody has donated $25,000. They have that in their kitty. The Case Populaire branch is interested in giving them $50,000, just as they were doing in Mattawa, and they're good for that because I've seen it happen. And then somebody's donated $20,000 to buy some exercise equipment. So all those numbers go in there to amounts of money that you don't have to spend because it's already there. And what I did is took it off in my statement. I took it off the capital cost to kind of reduce the financing. So we would pledge some of that towards the financing. So the financial statement itself is really just a snapshot or an illustration of what an estimated projected financial statement might be for a 5-year period. The statement shows it's financially sustainable and viable. The rates that were set was $875 for a 1-bedroom and $1,000 for a 2-bedroom. Plus any utilities. And really for a townhouse where you park in front and you walk through and you have a back door to a patio and you live like that, it's probably not bad rental rates. If they were able to get some additional funding from other places, those rents could be brought down, or if they have a larger reserve than possible, possibly they could entertain making a consideration on the rates. But and a lot of people may think that's still high for Banfield, but that's what the rates have to be in this plan in order for it to be revenue positive and pay for all the bills and pay the mortgage. So we factored in the financial statement life cycle costs to put money away for things that have to be replaced 20 years down the road, 10 years down the road. There's a vacancy rate. In the first year, we put an extra 10% vacancy because, so you're going to, even though you have 20 names, those all guys are not moving in the same month. So we've even put some money in for taxes. So just let me just go quickly over the statement. I just want to get to it here. And I suppose you guys have that in your package. So. Okay, here we are. Okay, so the financial statement, it's called Estimated Financial Performance Statement, revised August 2021. So this is the snapshot I was talking to you about what it would look like over 5 years, what you have to charge, what the associated costs would be, and what the mortgage rates would be that were pledged by the Case Populaire, and what the outcome might be of that. So if you have rental, like John says, there's 20 units, 6 of them 1-bedroom, 14 are 2-bedrooms. And if you charge $875 and $1,000 respectively, you get revenues, and those in the blue color there in the under the revenue section. There is some laundry, ancillary laundry revenue, because there's going to be some coin operated machines that generally create revenue of about $35 a month per suite times 12. So we extrapolated that number in there, about $8,500 a year. The common room rental might be a couple grand a year, but the unknown number is the gym exercise revenue. I've been given numbers that for membership of using that exercise room, and they were like pie in the sky numbers. They were like $24,000 a year. So what I did on my own is I pared them right down, and I just took a super more conservative approach and put only $10,000 because I've got no information to back up that there would be that many people that would sign a membership and to create $24,000 a year. So, but it's possible to generate some money. So I put 10 grand in there for a year. We got about 25 grand in taken off of that revenue for the first year for absorption rate. And then the rest of the expenses, I won't go down them individually, but they're industry standards, the numbers that we use kind of for all the projects, these kinds of projects, for insurance and, you know, utilities and window cleaning and blah, blah, blah. So snow removal. So that's about $53,000 a year. So you're at about 31% of expenses of revenue, which is pretty in line with, and then the rest of your funds, $173,000 a year, got to go to debt servicing, and that will leave you roughly the first year 22,000, second year 45,000, third year 50,000, and of course the bottom line is the accumulated one. Now, what's different about this financial plan is that we've convinced a lot of the I think a lot of these, what we've done is mortgage companies, it was tough to find a mortgage company that would build something or design a plan for us for what we needed. So we needed them to only charge interest for the first 3 years and then come up with a full monthly payment. So that's what we've portrayed here. Honestly, Case Populaire is the only bank right now that is even interested in doing the project. We've talked to TD and Scotia on a cursory basis, and none of them had too much interest in the project. So I that's kind of where it sits financially. Does anybody have any questions? I know I'm sorry to bore you with all that stuff because I'm always the guy that causes the trouble and bores everyone to death. But I think for you, the financing is a super important thing, and the risk mitigation. And I know it is to your mayor, and it should be to everybody. So Keith, I'm going to throw it back to you. You can maybe do a summation there. And
can everybody hear me now?
Yeah.
So just to sort of quickly encapsulate what Dave was talking about, all these numbers, we anticipate, if anything, they're going to come down in our capital pricing because, as you're aware, we had a real struggle getting these numbers, but because of COVID, they are where they are. Everything, all the indication out there is that the numbers are coming down. So by the time we are committed to buying material, we anticipate it is going to be cheaper and allowing us to build better model into the project. The big thing, of course, is, and that's why we're in front of the council tonight, is that we're asking for your consideration in the form of resolution to give us the limited guarantee that the banks require. So with that, I will turn it over to the council for any questions that they have.
Okay, thank you. Is there any questions from members of council? The proposal that you submitted, the written proposal, states in it that you're seeking a drafting of an MOU at some point to indicate, that the guarantee, mortgage guarantee being the key component, I guess, is favorable and acceptable, I guess is how I'd put it. So how soon would you need that indication?
This is Dave. Your worship, you're exactly right. There's no way that any group on this earth will just give you a holus bolus guarantee for a whole bunch of money without any conditions. So we understood that, and I think that next step is an MOU that outlines some of the conditions that the town would participate in one of these in this program. In terms of time, obviously soon as possible, but what I'm saying in the timelines, if you take a look at the document, I'm saying by sometime in November, if we could have that finalized, because obviously you know, it's got to go back and forth, and your SD lawyers look at it, and you really have to come to terms with it and get the banks on side and stuff. So I'm saying by the end of November, if we can have something in place, I'd be happy with that. John, are you in tune with that? And Keith, I'm just speaking this just off the top of my head here, but I'm saying in my package I put November.
Yes, Dave. I think that realistically, maybe a little earlier than the end of November, middle of November, beginning mid, just to provide a little bit of time to allow some of the preliminary study work to continue with the project. So that would be like the hydrogeological and those kind of studies. So just in order to get out for the spring, because the design to finalize the for construction design usually takes a few months. So if that happens over the January, late December, January, February, then, March, we're starting to plan for construction. If in fact 2022 is the intended timeline for getting the project off the ground. So.
Okay. Is there questions from other members of council? Okay, just to give a bit more feedback on it, just from what I heard, just made a few notes along the way. The rates, when I seen them in the presentation, and keeping in mind, I appreciate that yous are the the consultants and the builder, not so much the board of directors of the enterprise, but the rates are incredibly low, in my opinion, which is a good thing. I mean, if that's the tabled model that they can work from in this new COVID environment that we find ourselves in, and I haven't been a renter in a long time, but the rates are shocking me that people are paying these days for accommodations. So those numbers are certainly far and away acceptable to what I'm hearing in the general market. So that's not a concern at all. The other part, I guess, that I give as feedback is Descon Construction. I've heard nothing but good things about that. So just wanted to express that because I know you've illustrated in your proposal that there's a variety of projects underway, throughout Northern Ontario, and from what I've heard, it's all good. So I just wanted to share that. So that's also in our agenda tonight. There's two notices of motions submitted that are very in line with what you're seeking generally here. So were you aware that they were in our agenda tonight for consideration, or no? Okay, so that's a side matter further in the agenda anyway, but I just wanted to share that with you so that you know. Once again, I'll ask any members of council or anybody that's appearing on my screen there if they have questions related to the presentation. Yes, Councillor Viancore first, and then David wants to summarize, I think.
Yeah, I just want to say thanks for the presentation, and going through it, I guess back with there is a lot of stuff to go through here. So, I guess a timeline would be fine if November would be good. I noticed a little comments from Dean at the back, which is a couple of pages of all more banking than anything else. So my only concern is like how much that we would have to guarantee as a township. So
Yeah, and you know what, through you, your worship, I'll answer that question. Uh, the guarantee is imposed primarily by the bank, obviously, right? And so I've seen it where it's gotten rather creative, where the guarantee has started to back itself out over time. So there's can be some leeway for that. In other words, years go by and things get paid, the guarantee becomes less and less and less, right? That's something that can be considered as well. Perhaps Keith will probably tell you at some point there's some more funding available for projects like this through CMHC and other organizations that we're pursuing on your behalf or on Lisa's behalf. And some of that materializes, that's definitely going to buy down the guarantee as well. I mean, these are all kinds of things that we can talk about. So and again, to your point, your worship, is that the rates could even go lower if you got more funding. Can you imagine if all your money got paid for by the government, the federal government, and what would you do? You'd have to cut your rates in half, so it'd be really, really cheap. So we're working towards that. I mean, it's affordable housing. It's for the community. It's not for anybody to make money on. It just has to balance the budget and be secure, right? And that's what it's all about. So anyways, that's my 2 cents.
Great, thanks.
Yes, the CAO has a question.
Not so much a question, Your Worship, just a couple of comments. I too would like to reiterate your statement. This is a very good revised proposal. Finally, I don't say that with any animosity to anybody, but it's taken us a long time to get to this point where the proposal itself, to me, professionally, looks very good. I was going to ask the same question the mayor did about the MOU, because there's a number of issues that, as the CAO, I have to provide advice to council on. And as much as I like this project, and believe me, I want to be on the record as saying that I will do whatever I can at council direction to help you support it. I want this to happen. It will be good for our community. Just the other side of the ledger on that, and I know that David and Keith and John will understand this, is that I've also have to look at a number of other financial commitments that this municipality is facing in the next 5 years. We've got a huge guarantee that we are obliged by law to provide for Castle Home. We're talking about a lot of money, and that's a given. That's on the table. We don't have any way around that. We're obliged by our asset management plan to spend a substantial amount of money, millions of dollars every year on asset management. That's a given. So there's a lot of things that I and my colleagues have to try and put together for council in order to be able to assure them that whatever commitments we take on is financially sustainable by the municipality. And so the MOU will provide me and us some details about that, because I too would like to know what the conditions are and what the amount is. Jumping to one of the notices of motion that the mayor referred to, it should be stated, or could be stated, I suppose, that it is correct that the limited mortgage guarantee, as confirmed by the auditor, and I've talked to the auditor and also Municipal Affairs, will not impact our annual debt capacity. But I have to look beyond that. Whether it impacts that or not, we are able to exceed our debt capacity if we want to. But I have a responsibility as a CEO to make sure that if we do that, again, it's financially sustainable. As I said, I want this to work, and subject to council direction, I will do everything I can to help this group make that happen. Because, as I say, I'll wind up with this point that I'm so glad that we finally got to this point, because I was getting frustrated. Not at the with the people that have been involved to date. But it shouldn't have taken us this long to get where we are. And so I guess all good things come at their time. And this is a very good project. So I want to reiterate my pleasure at seeing this project tonight. It's very good. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is there any other questions on the housing proposal? Okay, thank you very much for your presentation this evening, and we'll be in touch, I guess is how we'll put it for now.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
We'll move now to minutes and reports on municipal committees and boards. Planning advisory.
Yes, we had a meeting last week and we have 2 recommendations coming forth tonight. 2 applications.
Fire department.
We haven't had a meeting for a bit. We just had a quick talk a little while back with Peter and Jill, and we have coming tonight, I think, recommendations for 4 new firefighters, which is good news. And I think we'll be meeting shortly, I guess, sometime soon, hopefully.
Okay. And recreation and fitness. You went mute all of a sudden.
We haven't had a rec committee for a while, but we had a lot of stuff going on between with the kids camp and that, which apparently was a great success, and they did a good job. We had a lot of, I think, a record amount of kids for the week. So, and hopefully we'll have a meeting soon too, and as soon as we can.
Okay, thank you. Library. Okay, further in the agenda tonight, we've lost a library board member, and there'll be one appointed, a new one appointed, and we had applicants for it. So that's good news. General government had a meeting. It's a relative rarity that general government meets, because in that format, it's members of council operating in a committee manner. But we did have one about 10 days ago, and the reason being was we reviewed and ultimately approved at the committee level our operating budget for the 2021 fiscal year, and it'll be appearing later in our agenda tonight for council consideration by way of bylaw. Police Services has not had a meeting, although the formation of the new Police Services Act is restructuring police services boards in general, and it seems that our district initiative was submitted on behalf of all the municipalities in the district served by the North Bay Detachment, and we're awaiting whether it's approved using a 3-cluster type groupings of police services boards. Emergency management will meet again tomorrow morning. We've been on a bit of a 2-week vacation for a variety of reasons related to the COVID-19 local state of emergency that we continue to be under, in that things were generally stable, and Ontario, as everybody knows, has moved into stage 3 of the protocols related to COVID-19. News today was that we will not be emerging from the stage 3 protocols provincially due to the Delta variant, which is of great concern, not just locally and in Ontario, but worldwide, in that it's become quite a resurgence to COVID-19, and is certainly something that all people in authority related to managing that pandemic are cognizant of and vigilant towards encouraging everybody, if at all possible, to get vaccinated so that we can stamp this plague out once and for all and get back to a new regular world order that we were so used to. Public Works will have motions coming forward after the other committee motions from planning, in that there's a couple of substantial ones in there to related to infrastructure type projects that we want to undertake. Yes, Councillor Foisey.
Yes, I would like to quickly respond to the discussion about the emergency shelter in our township, very quickly. The township
Okay.
of Banfield must treat people with dignity and respect in their hour of need with the best facility that the township can offer them. This is the Banfield Community Center, our emergency shelter. It is equipped with well-upkept kitchen and bathroom facilities with potable water and was recently completely renovated. It is also well situated in a centralized location in close proximity to the Family Life Center, and a convenience store. Many members of the community, especially the Golden Age Club members, are very familiar with the facilities and are available and eager to help. Making this facility available for an emergency is essential and makes people feel respected and dignified. It is very reassuring that people will be well taken care in our established emergency center if the need arises. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So just closing out on the Public Works line item, we'll discuss the individual motions as they appear. So going back then to motions of committees, Planning Advisory, we have two motions from Planning. First one being consent application B18 2021, Paul and Michelle Conta. I take a mover and a seconder for it. Moved by Councillor Lagasse, seconded by Councillor Foisey. Whereas the Planning Advisory Committee has recommended to Council that consent application B18 2021, Paul and Michelle Conta be approved, be it resolved that Council approves of this recommendation along with the conditions and notes set out on the attached decision of approval authority form. Any questions? All carried. The next one is application B19 2021, Margot Alescu. I take a mover and a seconder for it. Moved by Councillor Foisey, seconded by Councillor Vinecore. Whereas the Planning Advisory Committee has recommended to Council that consent application B19 2021 Margot Alescu be approved, be it resolved that Council approves of this recommendation along with the conditions and notes set out on the attached decision of approval authority form. Any questions? All in favor? Carried. The only next set of motions I have, skipping all of the rest of the committees, is Public Works. So moving to Public Works recommendations, we need to update our asset management plan with a bridge and culvert study, so we need to accept that. I take a mover and a seconder for it. Moved by Councillor Lagasse, seconded by Councillor Vinecore. Where the Public Works Committee recommends to Council to update the asset management plan with the new bridge and culvert study that was presented at the Public Works Committee meeting. Be it hereby resolved that Council approves of this recommendation. Any questions? All in favor? Carried. Next one relates to purchasing our salt for the winter sand and some for salt application. Take a mover and a seconder for it. Moved by Councillor Vinecore, seconded by Councillor Foisey, that the Public Works Manager proceed with the purchase of 190 tons of salt for the winter sand from K&S Windsor Salt Limited at the cost of $22,135 plus HST. Be hereby resolved that Council approves of this recommendation. Any questions? All in favor? Carried. The next one speaks to a tender for subsurface work and ultimate reconstruction in phase 2 of Development Road. And at the committee level, we had described that as pretty well from coast to coast, from Nosbonsing to the Calvin border. So that's with the exception, for the most part, of the huge pipe on Sharps Creek, which we know is almost a multi-million-dollar project of its own. So I take a mover and a seconder for that. Moved by Councillor Foisey, seconded by Councillor Lagasse. Whereas the Public Works Committee recommended to Council that the Public Works Manager be directed to execute a tender for subsurface work on Development Road, and that phase 2 of the tender is to include resurfacing of Development Road in 2022. Be it hereby resolved that Council approves of this recommendation. Any questions? I guess I'd go on record as saying that while we haven't approved a capital budget in any way to facilitate this, this is the first step in indicating some of our preferences towards building those financial abilities to do a project this size. So that, you know, this is an indicator, I guess, to our staff to start to work towards the process. Any questions? All in favor? Carried. Okay. Before I leave the committees, I was remiss in asking the Public Works Manager, who appears on our screen this evening, to give us a bit of a Public Works update, if you so desire, and if not, that's okay too. I know I'm putting you on the spot.
I'll just make it quick because I do realize you have a large meeting this evening. You'll see that we've already been working on Development Road pre to tonight's meeting with Hope. I've already had a meeting with the Conservation Authority to figure out where our cold water, warm water permits will be needed. And we started measuring out all of our culvert work as well. So I checked myself for ticks today because there was a lot of bush work to do that. We're about halfway done. Our engineer will be returning on Monday, so we're hoping to have all that sub work accomplished, so we're able to execute that tender quickly for Council.
Okay, thank you. Reports of non-municipal committees and boards, FNOM, there was correspondence from them today jointly with some other associations related to advocacy they have done at the AMO conference. And the AMO conference, as we know, this year is another virtual conference, but the provincial ministers and so forth were made available to individual municipalities virtually, along with the associations that we are members of. And FNOM did achieve some goals in that regard and obtain some commitments. So I haven't fully read all of the outcome of that. Conservation Authority.
We took a break this summer. We haven't had a meeting since our last one.
Okay, thank you. And Castle Home, as anybody who's following the media at all is aware, I guess it was at our last council meeting, we took the bold step to endorse the financing plan and to, you know, assure our commitment to the reconstruction of Castle Home, only to find that the general membership, all of the owners didn't agree, and many made no choice, and some outright rejected the financing plan that was put before them. So in that regard, the ball was back in the court of the Board of Management of Castle Home, which many of the member municipalities that either rejected or choose not to give answer have directly appointed members on the Castle Home Board. So it put them in quite an awkward position, in that when they were wearing their councillor hat, they were either, you know, opposed or, you know, as an entity, as a corporation, or chose not to answer because you know, the question wasn't put before their council. So that left then the Board of Management of Castle Home to make decision, because they are they have an opened tender process, a builder ready to start construction. And the final step of the process was to agree how everybody was going to pay for it once the shovels started digging. And now that is in limbo in one point of view. The other point of view from the Board of Management has always been that they have the fiduciary authority to just levy those municipalities who didn't agree to the borrowing terms. And how you pay your bill when you get it in the mail is your domain to decide. So that was the choice they made, and it certainly, I think, was probably very difficult decision for those board members to make. But that's all we know so far, is that the Board of Management of Castleholm has agreed to proceed with construction, and as such, the member municipalities such as ours that are seeking financing through Infrastructure Ontario, they will assist us in obtaining that financing. And the municipalities who didn't like the terms and conditions of the financing, well, they get to put it on their Visa card or however else they want to do it. But the project is going ahead. So that's all we know for now. Moving then to notices of motion, both of them submitted by Councillor Foisey. And the first one is being seniors housing in-kind contribution. And the second one, very similar in the guarantee motion related to the financing guarantee that we heard about earlier this evening from our presenters. I guess because they're so similar, if you'd like to speak to them now, Councillor Foisey, that's probably the good time and to do so.
Yes, I obviously was in contact with Lise about those, and the consultants are aware of the motions. I guess they didn't know that I would present them today. I consulted with Lise on that to see it was okay that I bring them up at this meeting. So the first one for in-kind contribution is just to finalize what is already was agreed upon. We have a draft in-kind contribution, so I'll go ahead and read it if you don't mind.
Okay.
So it's a motion to finalize an arrangement of support for in-kind contribution from the Township of Banfield for the Community Nonprofit Seniors Housing Banfield Corporation Initiative. Whereas Banfield Seniors Housing and Banfield Community Seniors Housing means Community Nonprofit Senior Housing Banfield Corporation. Whereas the Ontario Corporation 1987389, Community Nonprofit Senior Housing Banfield Corporation, is seeking help from the Township of Banfield for a variety of in-kind contribution or assistance and tax exemptions comparable to Schedule A to Banfield Seniors Project Capital Facilities Agreement draft for the initiative. Whereas bylaw number 2019-31, being a bylaw to provide for municipal capital facilities for municipal housing project facilities, Section 6, financial and/or other assistance. Conditions allow for such in-kind contributions or assistance. 6.1C, giving in-kind municipal services and/or 6.1D, provide an exemption from all or part of the taxes levied for municipal and school purposes on land or a portion of it on which the municipal capital facilities are or will be located on in accordance with Section 110, subsection 6 of the Act. Whereas motion number 13 at the regular council meeting, September 24, 2019, was carried detailing the specific in-kind financial contributions to be granted to the Banfield Community Seniors Housing Project agreement for the Capital Facilities Agreement, financial contributions to be provided to the Seniors Housing Project in accordance with the agreement, which is now the subject of this bylaw. Whereas property for the Community Nonprofit Seniors Housing Banfield Corporation has been purchased for this project on Eric Street in the Township of Banfield. It is therefore recommended that the Council of the Township of Banfield approve a final copy of the Schedule A to the Community Nonprofit Seniors Housing Banfield Corporation Project Capital Facilities Agreement for in-kind contributions as attached to reflect and incorporate the carried motion number 13 at the regular council meeting, September 24, 2019.
Okay, thank you. I guess I'll ask other members of council, do they have any questions related to it at all at this point? I have a number, but if somebody wants to go first, that's fine. Yes, Councillor Vinecourt?
Well, basically, I'm just wondering, because this was already dealt with, right? We've had an in-kind motion that was done on it. So I just, it was done in 2019, I believe. Is that
Yeah.
correct?
Councillor Foisey will respond to it, I guess.
That was a draft, so it was just rewritten so it is finalized, that's all.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay, any other questions related to it? Just, you had mentioned that you were speaking to Lise about it. Did Lise ask you to retable this for, I guess, reconfirmation or whatever we want to call it, when you were speaking to her? The in-kind matters?
Yeah, just to make sure that it is finalized, that's all.
Okay. I was wondering when I read that, where, because in the more so in the documents part of it that were accompanying it, there was a bunch of new information that mirrored the proposal that the consultants tabled to us tonight that I thought was new information. And the just some of the points I highlighted was that the nonprofit has negotiated a mortgage that, you know, covers 100% of the capital costs and speaks to the details of that. And then the cash reserve and the third-party experience, you know, running the facilities and so on. That was all news, or news to me at least, related to the proposal tonight. So I was just wondering how you had come to obtain that to build the notice of motion, that's all. But it was Lise Allard that had provided it to you then, I guess. So that answers that question. Related, do you want to speak now to the other motion too, related to the mortgage guarantee, or do you want to take them one at a time?
Doesn't matter.
Okay. Just because they basically mirror each other and fit together hand in hand. So that's why I asked that, that's all.
Yeah, I had sent them to Peter to see if they were okay, so, and I didn't hear anything, but
Okay.
so I guess they're fine. So you want me to read the second one, or? Oh.
If you're intending to, sure, go ahead now on it, and yep.
Motion to finalize an arrangement of support for financial support in the form of mortgage guarantees from the Township of Banfield for the Community Nonprofit Seniors Housing Banfield Corporation Initiative. Whereas the Ontario Corporation 1987389 Community Nonprofit Seniors Housing Banfield Corporation is seeking help from the Township of Banfield for financial support in the form of mortgage guarantees for the initiative. Whereas the Community Nonprofit Seniors Housing Banfield Corporation has received a letter of support from the District of Nipissing Social Service Administration Board for the Seniors Affordable Housing Project. And whereas no issues regarding the impact of a limited guarantee on the annual debt limit capacity of the township have been identified neither by the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing, nor by BDO or municipal auditor, merely a bookkeeping item as required by PSSAB. It is therefore recommended that the Township of Banfield financially support the community nonprofit seniors housing Banfield Corporation initiative by providing a continuing guarantee to a financial institution to secure a suitable long-term mortgage that will make the project feasible and sustainable into the future.
Okay, thank you. Is it your intention to have these voted on this evening, or are they in this agenda as information?
It would be nice to have them voted on this meeting, yeah.
Okay. Is there questions from the other? Yes, I see the CAO. I guess I'll allow you the first question. You were right out of the gates. You're muted as well. I'm gonna have to ask you to unmute CAO Johnston.
I can wait. I don't have a question. I have a couple of comments.
Okay, I do as well, but I'll entertain questions first,
Okay.
if there is any. Doesn't appear that there is any, and if there is, when they appear to you, indicate so, and we'll ask them. So either you or I can go first. CAO, you can go first.
Well, all right. Councilor Foyer is correct. He did send those to me, and I respected him for that. Thank you very much, Councilor Foyer. I didn't respond because I wanted to make these comments to all of council because it relates to process, and it's not criticism of you, Councilor Foyer. I certainly recognize your efforts and your motivation to bring this project forward, and we're all trying to do that. But comment number one on the process is that, and this has been happening the last 3 years of this council term, and so it's not directed at you, sir. It's just a matter of process. I perhaps should have spoken up earlier to council months ago. The notices of motion are not designed for something like this. Notices of motion under the procedural bylaw are where you introduce a matter that's not on the agenda. You do not introduce notices of motion when it is, and this is the case here. Exactly. The seniors housing project, we had a presentation provided in the council package, and there was no reason why you wouldn't have an opportunity, Councilor Foyer, or anyone else, to put forward a motion or make comments to have something done. Notices of motion should be for something that's not on the agenda. And that's been happening in the past too often. And what it does is it confuses the process, because we had this discussion with the consultants, and it was a good discussion, and we're all very much in favor, subject to certain things being provided. But later on, after the presentation, to talk about some of the same issues that we should have been done during the presentation of the consultants. As I said, confuses the process. It's not a criticism, sir. It's not, but it's not necessary. Secondly, on a matter of process, to your question, Your Worship, about voting on it, I would say that that's not appropriate. What's being asked is to finalize a schedule to an agreement that has not yet been signed. You don't approve a schedule to an agreement that hasn't been signed yet. We have a bylaw that passed in 2019 that said that the municipality can enter into municipal capital facilities agreement. That's a requirement by law. We couldn't enter in an agreement with the housing board or anybody else to provide financial commitments or financial enhancements without that. So we did that in 2019. But as you all will recall, we did not sign a municipal capital facilities agreement with the housing board because they hadn't bought the property, and there were a number of other issues. So that's something we still need to do. So I would suggest, Your Worship, and to Councillor Foyer, that you should not be voting on approving on a schedule to an agreement that doesn't exist. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Councillor Foyer.
We'll keep those motions for later on then? Is that what we're saying?
That's an option, yep. I would think they'd need more refinement prior to being entertained by council. But so word for word, probably not, but the basis, we understand what you're trying to achieve. So to reiterate, I guess what the CAO has just said and encourage us in action. This seniors housing matter has been a grave concern to me for some time, in that it has taken us quite a substantial period of time to get anywhere with it. And there continues to be, from what I see tonight, that divide of voice related to who speaks and how they speak and how they communicate to the municipality as their we started out as their partner in this, and full of encouragement and enthusiasm to help achieve this, because there's no argument in the fact that it's necessary or it's not necessary. There's nothing to do with building public housing that's necessary. Let's face that. But is it desirable? Absolutely. So I know a number of people who would move in there at the first opportunity, and from the presentation earlier this evening, it seems quite reasonable in many ways. Without delving into all the details, it's something that's very workable, and it's happening all around us. So it's not an absurdity for us to entertain in our municipality. But I think what I had the gravest concern with when I saw the two notices of motion was, first of all, the process that the CAO just touched on, in that without airing dirty laundry that's not necessary, I feel it necessary to point out that when I went through, and there again, there's the divide. There's the proposal from the constructors and the financial consultant related to wanting to plunk a seniors housing facility in our municipality. And we all know, 45 minutes ago, we were on the high road of hearing that information and wanting to champion that as best we could. I overlooked, for the sake of harmony and general moving forward, in their proposal, there was some glaring errors, and that happens when parties are drafting things, and I took no offense from them. But there's the statement that there's two ex-mayors on the board. Well, I'd like to know who the other one is, because I only see one. There's a cursory mention of Banfield Rutherglen, and the corporate name makes it very clear it's Banfield Seniors Housing. Banfield is a community in our township of Banfield, and I take no offense from that. But to throw in Rutherglen as a moot point to try and win favor with whoever they think that might achieve by mentioning it, Rutherglen was never in the equation of this from the outset. In the very early days, I advocated strongly for Rutherglen to be strongly considered as a site location. There was a variety of places, only to be told by the then chair of the board and the current and the remaining chair of the board in a flippant statement that, "What do you want us to build it in the boonies?" was his direct quote. So little things like that, when they come hat in hand looking for a $6 million mortgage guarantee, are not lost on me. Through the presentation earlier this evening from the constructors, again, the continual reference to Lisa's group. Lisa's the secretary of the board. She's doing a great job, and as the report states, she has been very much a champion of this project. But it has nothing to do with one individual person, and in fairness to her, she shouldn't be taking it all on her own shoulders. It's supposed to be a board of directors, and they've described their competency and their personal business acumen related to it. but it still concerns me greatly that it's called Lisa's Group and Lisa's Project and things such as that. So I think this divide, when you confirmed to us that you had spoken to Lisa Lard, Councillor Foisey, and that is the voice of the board, and she's using a member of council, which is great, to be the voice to bring it to the council table, concerns me greatly, because for a long period of time, I've personally felt that conversation was happening in the distance deliberately to keep me out of it. So I'm going on record as saying as much tonight. And you will recall another quote, because the one motion speaks to reconfirming the $250,000 of in-kind contributions that the municipality has agreed to support. That was a contentious issue in the day, and thank you to you, Councillor Foisey, for copying us on the motions and the recorded votes related to that, because at that point in time, it felt to me like the project was being bullied through, with 60% of the council and 40% disagreeing. And I think even the builders would state that no municipality should go into a construction project of this magnitude with, not all parties on side. So the statement by the secretary of the board that time was, when we approved the $250,000 for in-kind, was, this is all we need, a big thank you, and this is all we need. Well, and then they left and never spoke to us again. And then all of a sudden, when the financing from the federal government fell apart, it wasn't all they need. And now they need the good citizens of the corporate entity of the Township of Banfield to guarantee the mortgage. So, there's been a lot of things said and bridges burned along the way, maybe not intentionally, or maybe they didn't mean it that way, but it's certainly how it felt. So that's certainly something that if you were going to table these motions this evening, weigh very heavily on my mind. And there's a lot of mending to be done yet before I would be able to personally support some of that. Another matter, and you always don't like to take commentary from the general populace to heart too much, because there's always some critic of something that municipalities and members of council are doing. But if we've dithered at all municipally as a corporation of the Township of Banfield, if we've dithered and held up their project that I've heard stated a number of times, they're welcome, because as we know, and from the documentation that they provided to us, when they were so eager and raring to go, and the statement was made, this is all we needed, the $250,000 in-kind contribution. Since that time, they've had a nasty divorce with their constructor and come to the realization that that wasn't such a good partnership, and have reformulated and regrouped, and now have a new builder that, as I indicated earlier in the meeting, has a very good reputable record in the district. And so if we're responsible for the dithering and it led to a good outcome, they're very welcome. So I guess I've said enough on that, but I just appreciate this evening that you're not tabling those motions based on what I've just finished saying. There's a lot more dialogue that needs to occur before, there's comfort level giving anybody a mortgage based upon what I've just said in the past 10 minutes. So is there anybody else that has any questions or anything to say regarding the seniors housing right now? Yes, Councillor Foisey.
So I can leave this motion with you and you will take care of this, or the CEO will take care of it? Is that what I understand, or?
Well, you could ask that they be, I guess, referred or held. But as I stated earlier, probably these motions, and that was most disturbing. And when I asked earlier this evening, the official presenters on behalf of the project, were you aware there's notices of motions further in our agenda? And they said no. that tells me there's a tremendous disconnect between the board and the constructor. And if you're asking me for a $6 million mortgage guarantee and those parties are not talking to each other, that's a great concern. So direct answer to your question, I don't think there's much salvageable of your notices of motion, in that, as they alluded to, the MOU process is going to be much more descriptive, I guess, in what they need from us. But yes, Councillor.
Yes, the consultants
Go ahead,
do have
Councillor Foyce.
copies of these motions also, so they're aware of them. Maybe they
Okay,
weren't aware
okay.
that was.
I wasn't aware that they had, but I had asked them and they seemingly weren't aware, but a few of them were on the road, it looked like. So, okay. Is there any other questions related to the notices of motion? All right, thank you. Moving then to bylaws, introduction and consideration, 8.1, a first, second, and third reading of bylaw 2021-21 for establishing our tax ratios for the year 2021. As you know, the ratios are generally unchanged from year to year. They are just the multiplier that our tax system and our staff who generate the bills use as the multiplier to generate that figure that comes out at the other end. So I would take a mover and a seconder to entertain the bylaw for the tax ratios. Moved by Councillor Lagasse, seconded by Councillor Vaillancourt. First, Council deems it expedient to pass 3 readings of the following bylaw at this session. Be it hereby resolved that a bylaw for establishing tax ratios for the year 2021 be read a first, second, and third time, passed and numbered 2021-21, and that the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and clerk, sealed with the seal of the corporation, and be engrossed in the bylaw book, and that this bylaw be placed on the municipal website for public information purposes. Any questions? All in favor? Carried. Okay, item 8.2, a first, second, and third reading of bylaw 2021-22, a bylaw to adopt the 2021 operating budget and to establish the tax rates to be levied. I take a mover and a seconder for it. Moved by Councillor Vaillancourt, seconded by Councillor Foisy. I'll read the bylaw and then, or maybe I could make statement. There was, as I alluded to earlier, a General Government and Finance Committee meeting 10 days ago, and we vetted the budget thoroughly. There was some media coverage of that budget outcome that we have and the tax rate increase that's the result of it. And I was both telephoned and approached by individuals related to that tax increase. And I just wanted to give some clarity, as I explained to them, but more so to others who may not have phoned me. That rate increase, we held the rate of the budget last year because we were quite late in formulating and finally approving our budget. There was no tax increase last year, and all of the incremental increases for policing, our social services, and other type bills that we get, those increases were absorbed using cash that we had on hand to keep everybody's tax bill stable with no change for simplicity purposes. This year, we've revisited all of those figures, and that bump up in the increase that you're going to see in the levy, and let's not confuse the levy with the rate and the bill. The levy is what the general term is for the big pot of money that we collect by sending everybody bills. The rate is the figure that we apply to it to collect the amount necessary to make the pot big enough to pay for all our bills. And those are two things. And the levy is going up a percentage and the rate is going up a percentage, and they're both different. But the media took the largest of the two, and that being, I believe, 7.2 is what they quoted in the media. That is the general pool of money overall that the whole municipality collects is going up in fact, 7.2%. There's a whole variety of reasons for that a lot of people, when they sit down and think about it, understand, in that COVID, as we know, has dramatically increased prices for so many of the consumables that we use as a municipality. Fuels and steelworks, culverts, things like that. And then there's other things that happen. As I said, this increase captures pretty well a period of 2 years. There was 1% directly attributable of that to integrity commissioner reports that a now departed member of our council had filed some complaints with the integrity commissioner. The integrity commissioner is a service that we pay for on a per investigation basis. And, 1% of that tax increase is directly attributable to that situation. So if you sat down with the budget on a, person by person basis and started to explain the line items, it's pretty easy to see that running a corporation that has a $3 million line of business generally, costs are up all over the place. So on that basis, then I have a mover, Councillor Vinecore, and seconded by Councillor Foisey. Whereas council deems it expedient to pass 3 readings of the following bylaw at this session, be it hereby resolved that a bylaw to adopt the 2021 operating budget, including estimates of all sums required for the purposes of the municipality during the year 2021, and to establish the tax rates to be levied, be read a first, second, and third time, passed and numbered 2021-22, and that the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and clerk, sealed with the seal of the corporation, and be engrossed in the bylaw book, and that this bylaw be placed on the municipal website for public information purposes. Any questions? All in favor? Carried. Disbursements. I would take a mover and a seconder for the disbursements, and then we could ask questions, and then I'll read the motion. Moved by Councillor Vinecore, seconded by Councillor Lagasse. I'd open the floor for any questions on the bill run for this period. Yes, Councillor Lagasse. Go ahead.
Man, I know it's coming, but first I have a question for protection to persons and property. Page 2 of 5, the policing contract. Is this fixed, or do we get extra charges if we need them more?
Page 2 of 5. Policing contract. Is there anybody on the staff side want to answer to that? Because I don't even see the charge.
It's 28,000.
July 21st policing contract. That is the monthly invoice for it, I believe, isn't it?
Yes, but I'd just like to know if there's extra charges, if the township receives extra charges, if they're called more often than the contract allows.
There's a reconciliation that happens at year end all the time based upon it's quite a complex formula, but the base contract is a set fixed price at year end based upon the number of service calls in the municipality. If the hours of police service provided far exceeded the estimated amount that they built the bill on, then there would be a reconciliation. Last year, we received a refund back because our use of police services was less than the estimate predicted, if that helps. And I don't know if it appears even in this agenda, but I want to say $4,400 we received back as a rebate related to less police than we needed last year.
Thank you. I have another question, Mayor McLaren, on page 4 of 5. It's regarding the street lights. These are the new street lights that we've been using. Have you found them more cost efficient?
Yes, very much so. In this big pile of paper I have on my desk, I honestly have that number because I changed my budget to reflect such for this year. We accomplished every street light down to LED. I don't want to speculate on the savings, but I believe it was around $6,000 just in the hydro to go to LED.
All right, thank you. Because I remember when we first bought them, we were wondering what the long-term effects would be. Thanks. And also the coal patch. Is that it for this year? Are we caught up, or are we going to expect more coal patching?
I hope that's it for the year. The season generally for coal patch is spring and fall. We always like to be prepared too, in case you need any for the winter time. So I hope that's it.
Thank you, Anne.
You're welcome.
Thank you for the plan. That's it for me.
Okay. Any other questions related to the disbursements? Yes, Councillor Vinecourt.
Just one on the first reference. Is that first responders program, and or Peter? For renewal on page 1 of 5. It says First Reference Inc. Policy pro renewal.
Oh, that's something I talked to you folks about maybe 2 years ago. That's a subscription service that provides us with a voluminous library of policies that municipalities need. We can create our own policies for our various departments, HR, and so on. It's a very cost-effective subscription service that a lot of municipalities in Ontario use. It's nothing to do with first responders.
Okay, it ain't. Okay, thanks, Peter.
Okay.
That's about it.
I see Councillor Lagasse has another question.
Yeah, one more. Degassed tag appliances, almost 2,000. That's under environmental. Was that collected from the landfill site, the attendance? So there's going to be an offset. There's going to be a revenue showing somewheres.
That's not a revenue, actually, it's an expense, but we do, because the landfill is a pay-per-use service that we offer. So when people bring their refrigerators in, we allow them to bring them in untagged, so they don't have to run them into town and back to be tagged. So now we offer that service, and that is how much it costs to tag out 91 refrigerated products.
But we did receive the money to offset that. Okay.
That's right.
Okay.
And just to let you know, Councillor Lagasse, I found my paperwork, and we saved $5,000 in hydro, and we spend $6,000 less than having to buy all the lights and repairs.
Perfect. Thank you. Probably on maintenance also. Thank you.
Okay, is there any other questions related to the disbursements? All right, I'll read the motion. Moved by Councillor Vinecourt, seconded by Councillor Lagasse, that the following disbursements be approved as prepared. APO 5789, which covers all departments, for a subtotal of $228,558.81, and payroll batches 1156 through to 1164, amounting to $89,003.99, for a total disbursement of $317,562.80. Last call for questions. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Okay. Oh, yes.
Mr. Mayor,
yes.
I'm sorry. As I allow or admit the candidates, there is a motion that was not in your package. As they're being admitted, I will read it out to you, and then you can continue with a mover and a seconder if you may.
Oh, okay. There was a motion not in the package related to the
Not in
council
your
appointment
package, no.
process?
It's part of it, yes.
Okay,
So I'm admitting, I will just read it out to you. It states the Council of the Township of Banfield acknowledges receipt of the following names as having agreed to let their names stand for appointment to the remaining months of this council term. Jason Corbett, Doug Cable, Steve Featherstone, Krista Lozo, Daniel McInnes, Alan Reed, Michael Wilson. Now, Krista Lozo has since removed her name from the list. iPad, I have one person as iPad guest. Would that be Jason?
I believe so, yes.
Okay, I just wanted to confirm. I do not see Doug Cable, nor did I receive any correspondence from him. With your permission, I will remove his name from the list.
okay. So you received no indication from him that he would be participating this evening then?
Last I heard from him, he was supposed to join in through Zoom. So I'm not sure. I haven't received any correspondence or email or anything saying that he wasn't coming in. I can open the phone line just in case he would be there.
Conference has been unmuted.
I think
Mr.
for the
Cable,
basis
would
of
you
our,
happen to be on the phone? Mr. Cable?
I think for the basis of your motion that you
Conference has
read,
been muted.
you could just leave the name there, should he be having some form of a technical difficulty right now in the event that he does appear very shortly. But as we all know, it's of paramount importance that everybody participate this evening. So leaving his name on there as being, because he had indicated in writing to stand, but if he, doesn't appear tonight, he's not very much in contention for consideration. So if the rest of council agrees that leaving his name on there does no harm, we could do that in the event that he does appear mysteriously in a moment or two. Yes, Councillor Vinecourt.
Yeah, I have no problem with it. But
Okay. Councillor Lagasse.
I echo Councillor Vancourt. Same thing.
Okay. So if it's all right, then we'll just, if you could reread that motion, and I'll call for a mover and a seconder for it then, or I'll call for a mover and seconder now for that motion that you read, and then I'll ask you to reread it one more time.
Okay.
Moved by Councillor Vinecourt, seconded by Councillor Foisey. Please read the motion.
Council of the Township of Banfield acknowledges receipt of the following names as having agreed to let their names stand for appointment to the remaining months of this council term. Jason Corbett, Doug Cable, Steve Featherstone, Daniel McInnes, Alan Reed, and Michael Wilson.
Okay, all in favor? Carried. All right. First of all, apologies to all of our applicants tonight. We'll start off with an apology for making you wait so long to join in this process, because as I had indicated and hopefully set the tone at the outset, this meeting is much longer than our typical meeting, in that it had a volume of dialogue that was going to happen. Having said that, on behalf of the other members of council, they may well speak for themselves, but thank you, for all of you for standing up and putting your name in for this process, because I know it's easy to mull it over, but to actually put something in writing and submit it and put yourself out there for consideration is a big step. And ultimately, as you know, we only have one position open. There's going to be, some disappointments, but at the same time, everybody has a fair chance to to become a new councillor of the Township of Banfield. So certainly appreciate the fact that you've stood up and are willing to take on that challenge. So just not to drag us on too long either, there's been a lot of dialogue, some of it from me, related to the process. And as we know, the process to pick a new councillor sometimes is quite straightforward, in that if you had an election and you had a fifth place person, you'd dial them up and say, you know, are you interested in serving on council now? Because there's been an opening, and that was not the option in our case. And then there's always having a by-election, and that with a year left to go, basically is not probably fiscally prudent thing to do. So here we are in this application process, working towards choosing a candidate based upon very strong applicants. So the reason there's some contention in that all around us in the district, other municipalities have fallen and found themselves in this same situation of trying to pick another councillor. Some have had great success in, you know, seemingly relatively easily picking someone and appointing them and bringing them up to speed and moving on. Others, if we look at the municipality of West Nipissing, they and Mayor Savage, I'm not calling you out on that one, so I apologize for that. But in their municipality, they're at a deadlock where they've it's a 7-member council. There's 6, you know, members still sitting. 3 members think it should be one person, and 3 members think it should be another. And the tie breaking process, I guess is my long way of saying it, is not set in stone by any policy anywhere under the Municipal Act or other such things. So it's what we choose to, the 4 of us being the current members of council, we're in quite an interesting position in that, you know, in a general election, the whole municipality has the choice of picking the next councillor and indicating so by their secret ballot. By the restrictions of the Municipal Act and the language related to it, we're putting in a much different position in that we have to indicate our preference very publicly by a public process. And I don't care what anybody says anywhere. I used to be always the last guy picked for the baseball team or whatever, and it stings. So feel no sting after we have to pick somebody. And how we get there, you know, is not nice in that we have to vote not anonymously, so that you can't see whether you had a big majority or a you know, nobody liked you kind of thing. But it's awkward in that regard. On the tie-breaking side of the thing, as I'm trying to get to, I have a problem with letting, if we come to a tie in any way, shape, or form, you know, a draw of a hat is not really desirable to me. So I'm hoping we don't come to a tie tonight. Because as proposed by the CAO when he drafted up in fairness, we tasked him with the job of putting some guidelines to this. We could have a 4-way tie with each candidate, like 4 candidates all having 1 vote from each member of council. And if that, you know, is where we deadlocked, then there'd be 4 names in a hat and 1 would get pulled out, and that would be your new councillor kind of thing. And all of that doesn't sit well with me. But it's hard to find a method, I guess, that's better, that everybody can agree on. I don't know, do any of the councillors have a suggestion tonight related to the tie-breaking procedure? I know I voiced that I'm uncomfortable with it, but we need to decide before we even hear these candidates if that is the method tonight that we are going to break a tie with or not. And if not, then that poses the question of, much like I described earlier, a municipality can't break their tie and has been so for a very long period of time. So that's awkward in itself too. So I take any feedback right now on the tie breaking process more than the voting process. Yes, Councillor Lagasse.
Mayor McLaren, I feel the same way. I don't agree with the way the process of tie breaking. I'm sorry, and I have a hard time to be, when we were with the Mattawa North Bay Conservation Authority and we were voting for chair, it was all done through a voting process with 2 on staff that saw, and we had to process that, what to do if there was a tie, and it was not draw a name out of a hat. So I don't know what other alternative we have. I'm just telling you how we did it, explaining how we did it through the Conservation Authority, and I'm a little put out that it's happening this way. I'm open to suggestions. Any other way for the tiebreaker?
Okay, thank you. Yes, Councillor Vancouver.
Yeah, I know when I first read that also, I wasn't a big fan of pulling a name out of a hat, but I mean, it is what it is, I think. And if we don't get a tie, I think that would be better for everybody. But if we have to, I mean, I don't see, we have to pick somebody anyways, I think. So that's where I stand on that. If it does come to a tie. Thanks.
Okay. All right, we're generally undecided and awkward on the fact of the tiebreaker, but I think we're going to let nature run its course here. If we come to a tie, then we'll have a discussion on that at that point in time. Maybe we're bogging ourselves down in a non-issue. So let's proceed. All of these people would like to make their little pitch to us, I think, and on that, we've at the very outset of our meeting, I don't know how many of the candidates heard us, but we were asking ourselves if we were allowed to, ask you a general question or two afterwards, and we're hopeful that you would be favorable in answering a question that we threw your way by any of the members of council and myself. So the only thing I can say right now is we're starting out in alphabetical order, and Mr. Cable is not here, so that is one down. The next one in alphabetical order is Mr. Corbett. So if you would like to make a brief pitch to council on why you should be our councillor, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Your Worship and members of council. Thanks for the opportunity to make a presentation tonight and for your consideration. I've spent much of my career being heavily involved within the communities that I live, which is now Banfield, a proud resident of Banfield for the last couple of years. Previous to that, whereas in the military, and previous to that, my father was in the military, so we moved around quite a bit. Well, in the community, I got involved and heavily involved and worked within the municipal, the provincial politics scene. So I did that for 5 years, and then I moved into a senior leadership role within various organizations, not-for-profit organizations. Recently, and within the last few years, I sat as a board member with the Northern Ontario Heritage Fund Corporation and was the chair of the Innovation and Internship Committee. So very familiar with government programming, government granting programming, and how it can benefit within the municipal world. Also had the opportunity to sit as an inaugural board member for the North Bay Economic Development Corporation. So have given back quite a bit of time within the community and in a few roles that I think would lean heavily to supporting the great work that the municipality of Banfield is doing. I've just this year actually completed the municipal administration program through the Association of Municipal Clerks and Treasurers of Ontario. So I have a passion for the work that the municipalities do. I think it's a very valued service across the board, and hopefully have an opportunity to jump in with the Banfield Council and join the team making great progress within the municipality. Thanks, Your Worship.
Okay, thank you. Is there any member of council that has a question for Mr. Corbett? Okay, I just ask a just general overview. How long have you been in the township and what brought you here?
Lifestyle brought me here. Actually, we were looking around, wanting to get out of North Bay, but stay in the surrounding community. Looked around at various options, and quite frankly, settled on Banfield for the reason that it's a great sized municipality from a small town, big heart. It's true, as I think it's got an enormous potential for some growth opportunities and doing it strategically. So. And sorry, to your original question, we've been here for, this is our third summer, so.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else with a question for Mr. Corbett at the moment? Okay, our next candidate to speak is Steve Featherstone. I'm hoping I've maintained my alphabetical order, I believe so. So Steve, the floor is yours.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate the time for the council and the mayor. I appreciate the opportunity to apply for this and to submit my letter. We've been here about 4 years. This is our fourth summer. Just been deeply rooted in the community since we moved in. So running a lot of different programs and activities for kids. And we started a summer camp program for Banfield, and we brought back a New Year's Eve dance. I've been part of the recreation committee since I've moved here. We helped out with the soccer program, and we ran a t-ball program, and just trying to be involved in as many aspects as we can in Banfield. Any of the special events that the township has run, or any of the local groups have run, we've tried to be involved in. We've fundraised and raised money and awareness for different programs here. So we've just been trying to be as involved as we can be in the community. We really enjoy it here. We we moved up from Hamilton and just want to try and give back and hopefully make Banfield a bit of a better place to live for families and for everybody else.
Okay, thank you. Is there any member of council that has a question for Mr. Featherstone? Yes, Councillor Foisey.
Mr. Featherstone, could you give me 3 reasons why someone would want to live in the township of Banfield?
Yeah, for sure. We moved up just to try and get away from a big city. So personally, when we moved from Hamilton, we tried to look for somewhere where it's a little bit more rural, a little bit more laid back, where we can kind of pick our schedule a little bit, where it's close to big city recreation. So we're still fairly close to North Bay, and we can kind of utilize those areas, but far enough away that we can kind of do our own thing and take off and go hiking in the middle of the day if we wanted to, or blow off work on a Friday afternoon and go kayaking a little bit. So we just wanted to kind of get back to nature and try and live a more remote lifestyle, campfires at night as opposed to sitting around the TV and things of that nature. So Banfield was perfect for us. It's close enough to North Bay that you could work and find different jobs. I've worked with Jason in the past. He's been awesome. And a lot of recreation for the kids. We're foster parents as well through Children's Aid Society, so works out really good for us. There's a lot of amenities here for the kids.
Thank you.
Yes, Councillor Viancourt.
Hey, Steve, just wondering, what do you see in the future for Banfield, and what's your goals? I think that I want to ask that you can help out. Yeah,
for sure. We've always kind of concentrated on kids and youth programs. So I think we've come a long way in that aspect in this community since our arrival. Obviously, COVID has greatly slowed us down, as it has every other municipality. But just trying to be more productive with different programming for kids and different outlets for families to do different special events and charity events and just bringing popularity and notoriety to our park and to our areas. Running the summer camp last week at the Banfield Township was awesome. We did it before at Camp Care 2, which was great as well. But running it at the park, there were so many parents that have never even been to that park before, and it's a beautiful area, beautiful recreational area that our municipality maintains, and people should be using that for sure. So just trying to develop the area a little bit, but mostly my background, I have rec diplomas and a lot of experiences just trying to bring different programs mostly for the kids, right? Just getting them involved and getting them doing things and being productive members of society.
All right, thanks.
Any other questions for Mr. Featherstone? Okay, I'll go next. I guess I'll make statement first, and I always hesitate to do so in these type of formats, but based upon the preamble I gave earlier, you are a current sitting member of our Recreation Committee. So while there was no direct heir apparent council choice appointee based upon the last election due to the fact that Ms. Fry moved away, across the spectrum of our committees, you're the only one that stepped up and submitted your name. So kudos on that, in that you're in the system, you've volunteered, you've put your time in the trenches related to the committees. Having said that, you've done also quite a bit of advocacy on Facebook and other things related to the opening, and trying to, as the four voters in this very small election, very aware of your candidacy. So those are all the positives, is what I'm trying to, not all the positives, but those are positives in your favor. What I want to balance that with, and not to put too high of a position on it, but as you were aware, and because you were there, when you moved into the municipality, and your letter says 4 years ago, it seems so much longer to me back when that happened. I want to say 7 years ago, but was it this council that when you moved to the municipality that was in position? Because I just seem to recall Councillor Fry and Councillor Savard being present. Nonetheless, when you moved to the municipality, it generated quite a commotion, I'll call it, in that a great number of your neighbors attended the council meeting, and they were very much concerned with the fact that reptiles of the type that you operate with were moving in next door. And our building and planning department and our CAO and myself as the mayor, we were under fire for the fact that how can all of these reptiles move in next door to me, and for a variety of reasons, the people had great concern with that. And I recall that particular council meeting where the chambers was full, and one particular person who's probably your neighbor, and by his social media commentary, certainly no fan of mine, but he was the one most vocal, and he said, this is not right, and I can't see how this is allowed. And we had sent our bylaw enforcement people over, and they were confident that your facilities and so forth, your skills and your facilities were adequate, and that the council should not concern themselves with the fact that you had quite a repertoire of critters, at that time. But the statement you made to me that night as the mayor, because you popped up and there was quite a bit of catcalling related to the reptiles moving into their neighborhood, you quelled it by saying that you were moving here to take a slower pace, basically retire, and that you had been in the field of reptiles for a very long time and had great familiarity with them. There was no cause for concern in that regard, but that the ones that you had brought with you when you relocated were for the most part pets, and that you were just seeking to be a good neighbor, wind things down, the ones that you had, for the most part, wouldn't be replaced as they, died off their natural course. And that seemed to satisfy the audience that evening, in that they could reason with that. Since that time, you had the tragic fire and have rebuilt the stock of reptiles and so on. But along with that, you've certainly done a great job of turning it into a very a business with a lot of awareness, and it seems to be thriving. So I'm trying to balance the statement you made that night, whenever it was, 4 years or 7 years ago, with the fact that today it's a complete about face on that. So I'm just wondering if you have any answer for me in that regard.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we don't buy animals. We definitely don't go to the wild and collect animals. We've never done any of that. All the animals that we get are basically people's pets that they can no longer have, or that it's illegal for them to have. So this summer alone, I think we've brought in about 80 animals or so that mostly through OSPCA and Environment Canada and other organizations like that, sometimes through private ownership as well, through private individuals. Animals that make good pets, we rehabilitate, make sure that they're eating well, get them a vet check, and send them on their way. So we've moved probably about 70 or so out of this area, mostly back to bigger municipalities like Toronto and Hamilton. But there's constantly a need for these animals coming in. Since moving in, I've taken in 13 or 14 crocodilians all in this area, including things like 2 spectacled caimans that were just in like a duffel bag and left in the Tim Hortons in Brooks Falls, that were like zip tied together and just left there for somebody else to find, unfortunately. So a lot of our job is working with these professional alliances and trying to get these animals into safe care. The nice thing is it's a great avenue to run different events and different fundraising initiatives, and we've done well with that, raising money for the library and raising money for the food drive and stuff like that, all using the animals as a background. We raised money for the family that just had their house burned down. Obviously, that tugged at our heartstrings a little bit. So the animals in our company is a great avenue to kind of team up with a little bit. And with being here for as long as we have now, and people are starting to come around and see that we're not just somebody that's moving in with a bunch of big crocodiles, that it is a legitimate company, and that we're safe and things like that. Even some of those same neighbors that were a little bit apprehensive that evening have started sharing some of our stuff on social media and making comments and stuff like that. So I think if you move into any new area, especially when it's a small town thing, neighbors are going to be a little bit weary with new people, especially when you move in with the amount of animals that we had and stuff that that's going to be a normal thing for people. But I think now that we're here and now that we've been successful in running birthday parties, tours, and camps, and I think people are starting to kind of see what we're all about with running a nonprofit organization and rescuing these animals and just providing kids with the opportunity to kind of meet and learn about nature.
Okay, I guess, thank you for that answer, but I guess to summarize it, which was it? Did you come here to retire and wind down the reptile camp, or, as you've just stated, it's still thriving? So what I'm getting at there, and I'll get right to the point, is would you be the type of counselor that just tells people what they want to hear when you're under pressure, or would you, tell them the truth, is what I'm asking.
Right. Yeah. When we first moved up, we didn't think that the programs would go very well here. We're half an hour, 35, 40 minutes from North Bay. We did offer some summer camp programs. We offered some birthday parties. It was definitely going to be a lot slower of a pace than when I was in Hamilton, and still continues to be. Hamilton was a very different animal for sure. We were way busier in Hamilton, and we knew that it would be like that. But parents have no problem driving North Bay here and drop them off and drive them back in and working their full day in North Bay and coming back. So things change and things develop differently. I didn't think that there would be a need for it, and I thought I would be able to kind of settle down a little bit. But it hasn't just been animal stuff that we've been involved in either. I've done a lot of security in North Bay for the shelter. I've done a lot of security for Summit. I been a manager of the Northern Experts Axe Throwing Club. I've done a lot of stuff for CAS. I'm currently working full-time at the hospital. So we've been, deeply rooted in the community and working. And part of that is, some of the adversaries that we faced, like the fire that you mentioned, we're just trying to get kind of caught up with financials, with personal financials. So not afraid of hard work. And we showed that in the last little while. I've probably worked 80 to 85-hour weeks for 15, 16 months straight now. And during the pandemic, just to kind of keep the lights on and keep things going.
That's part of my secondary question, in that it was raised to me today by a constituent related to the camp, that social media has been my downfall in my political career. It has its own tone sometimes. And on Facebook, you had posted that you, to your credit, had fallen asleep at the wheel of a vehicle and were working just too much. And you alluded to that a moment ago, that nobody's going to discredit your work ethic, but there comes a point that it becomes too much. And my question is, if you take on this role as a municipal councillor, what are you going to change in your life to facilitate that time to do it effectively?
Yeah, our camp program's almost over now for the summer. We have a couple of single days left and a fundraising initiative, and then it'll just be back to some birthday party stuff. CAS, unfortunately, all their courses are now online stuff that I'm not really involved in. I was just doing stuff with them in person, other than continuing to be a foster parent. The Axe Run Club that I managed, and I was there pretty much full time, 30 hours a week or so. It didn't survive COVID. It closed up because their partnership kind of failed on them during the time that they were closed and not open to the public, unfortunately. The job at the hospital is probably coming to an end soon. The nightclub that I did security with and that I was kind of running security for them is shut down, and they're not reopening due to COVID. The shelter that I was working pretty much full time for over a year, they've gone a different way with their companies as well. So everything constantly changes, and we'll find a way for balance. But currently, my schedule seems to be opening up a lot more than what I had intended, for sure.
Okay, and one final one from me, and maybe others have questions now that they've prompted some of them. But again, on a Facebook post in your advocacy work that you were doing for this councillor position, you had stated that you'd like to work towards creating the change that's necessary, or something. I meant to mark down the very direct statement, but in a very brief answer, if at all possible, what change would you advocate for that you're presently not seeing in the municipality? What key thing would you change if you were in the council chair?
Yeah, I just think it's pretty obvious that the past couple of years that there hasn't been a whole lot of camaraderie with our councillors and with yourself. I'd like to see a lot more teamwork and kind of group dynamics and everybody working towards a better goal, and that's serving the community first. Unfortunately, I've kind of sat back and followed it a little bit, and there's been a lot of kind of back and forth stuff that isn't really serving our community or the people with the best intent, right? Our time could be spent better, for sure.
Okay, thank you. Any other members of council have a question for Mr. Featherstone before I move to the next candidate? All right, thank you. Our next candidate seeking to speak to us tonight is Dan McInnes. The floor is yours.
Dan, you need to unmute yourself.
Sorry about that. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, thanks. So good evening, Your Worship and Council. Thanks for taking the time to let me put my name forward for this potential seat on council. I've lived in the township for 18 years. My wife and I currently live on a hobby farm, and we've raised 2 kids here in Banfield. So, time is freed up, so I think I have time to put my name forward to council. If selected as a counselor, some of my priorities would be, asset management with budgets, budget projections for roads, road projects, and ongoing maintenance. Myself working for another township, another municipality as an operations superintendent gives me a good optimal skill set for understanding the working side of the municipality operations and how council sets goals and priorities. The majority of my work experience has been in civil construction projects, road building, drainage plans, water and sewer. With these experiences, I believe I have a good skill set to offer the township. Guidance in public works department from a counselor's level. Yeah, I think I bring a lot to the table. Working for another municipality, I think it'd be a seamless transition. I've been sitting in on council meetings for the past 2 years, so I understand what's going on. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you. Questions for Mr. McInnes from members of the council? Yes, Councillor Foisey.
Yes. Mr. McInnes, as a council member, who do you represent, report to, or work for?
Sorry, can you repeat that question?
Yes. As a council member, who would you represent, report to, or work for?
Well, I would report to, rest of council and the mayor. I would work for the constituents of the township.
Thank you.
Okay. Other questions for Mr. McInnes? I think Zoom is telling me I've talked too much tonight. I dropped off the airwaves there for a moment. I don't know how many others did, but I'm hoping we're all still here as a group and that you can hear me. We were hearing from Mr. McInnes there, and everybody's moved around on my screen, but that's no regard. Following up maybe on Councillor Foisey's question, I'll ask one in that you're employed as a municipal employee for another municipality, and that brings with it its challenges, as our 2 members or 3 members of staff on the screen know tonight. It's a different world when you're on the staff side of things versus the council side of things, and I'm wondering how well maybe you could state to us, would you find separating those 2 roles difficult, or how would you propose to wear a hat by day and drop the hat by night and revert to a role of a policy maker as opposed to a policy deliverer? That's what I'm asking.
Well, I don't think it's, I think it'd be a good fit because one hand, I know on the work side, what it takes. And on the policy side, I can help create the policies to make it flow better between council and the work, your staff.
Okay, thank you. Is there other questions for Mr. McInnes? All right, thank you. We'll move now to Alan Reed. The floor is yours.
Technology, it's a wonderful thing. Thank you, Your Worship, Mayor and Council. my esteemed competition here tonight. There's quite an assembly of talent here, and I hope I prevail. My name is Alan Reed. I've lived in Banfield since May of 2016. My wife and I chose to retire here. We've lived across the province from as far north as Abitibi Canyon and as far south as Niagara Falls. We could see the United States across the river from one of our homes. So we've seen the province. I've spent 36 years working with Ontario Hydro, and then it became Ontario Power Generation. My career has progressed from being a protection and controls technologist through supervisory and managerial positions into the executive positions. And when I retired from OPG, I was the chief operating officer of the non-nuclear division of Ontario Power Generation. So I've seen a company, I've seen a corporation. I had more than 1,000 people under me when I retired. So I understand, maybe not directly in the world of municipal politics, but I certainly understand the world of people. And I think people in an organization, people in a municipality, people in a business, all have a lot of similarities in terms of the skill sets that you need to bring to the table to be an effective leader. To that end, I've sat on boards. One of the most fun ones, and I think worth sharing, is I sat on the Festival of Lights board of directors that lights up Niagara Falls. And what I discovered there is that sitting on a board, sitting on a council position is more than just hard work. It's an opportunity to do something good and have a little bit of fun. So I think smiling is an important part of being a representative of the community and being the face of the community and providing that leadership and strong skill set that not just leadership, but you need to be good managers. You need to have strong skill sets to make things work in a corporation like a municipality. So I see this as an exciting opportunity. In terms of retirement and time, when I retired from Ontario Power Generation, I took 2 weeks off and started a small little consulting sideline, working for a small consultant in Timmins. So, my wife accuses me of not retiring, but I've slowed down quite a bit from the rat race of the city of Toronto and running around the province. So living in Banfield is a wonderful experience that is hard to compare with other places in the community. So for me to offer something back in my 36 years, I built up a toolbox, and I would just like the opportunity, and I believe I can do some good work in Banfield, and I look for your consideration in this venture. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is there any of the members of council that have a question for Mr. Reed?
I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
Well, I guess I'll go again then.
Okay.
Councilor Vancor, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. I'll just basically the same as what would you see in the future? What do you have visions for the future of this community?
The future of all communities, small communities across rural Ontario, are struggling with the same issues and same problems. Bringing more businesses to the community, bringing more financial success to the community, bringing more businesses in that have a future. If you look at what's happening, big box stores, and everybody's moving away from small communities, I think we need to build an environment that attracts this. There's a lot of people that are moving to this setting and would readily take advantage and support not having to go to big box stores and support our local businesses and entrepreneurs. So I think building up that financial base in the community is probably one of the most important things we can do.
Great, thanks.
Is there other questions from the member councils? Okay, in that regard, I've alluded earlier that the municipality is a big one, and the role of being the municipal councillor is to serve it from one end to the other and top to bottom kind of thing. And I'm just curious of your general overview of If I was to say to you that you were going to take one of the 4 roads on the north side of Highway 17 to go into the municipality, could you name those 4 roads for me?
Coming into Banfield and what, you know,
Well, as you know, we're kind of divided in half by the Trans-Canada Highway and in our existence here on the map. And there's a north side and a south side. And I get advocacy quite often from the north side of the municipality, in that I'm kind of residing pretty much in the center. I'm a little bit to the east, but for the most part, there isn't electoral representation from the north side of the Highway 17 corridor, shall we say. And very much of it is lakefront property and other things in there. So do you have familiarity with the geographical area of the municipality at all?
I do. I take great joy in when I go to Gagne's Red and White. I take the back roads, and rather than take Highway 17 and see what the township and the municipality looks like from the side. You don't see much from a highway, but I travel down Development Road down over to Rutherglen, 531 out to the highway. There's Sunnyside and South Shore Road. There's a bunch of roads that I don't really honestly remember the names of, but I've been on them exploring around. But to speaking to the diversity of the community, I think that's one of the advantages I bring to the table here is I don't have a lot of history. I don't have a lot of baggage, if you will. And I think what I can do is bring a very objective and honest approach in dealing with matters across the township, whether it's north, south, east, or west. So take it as it comes and then talk to people and understand their issues, and geography notwithstanding.
Okay, thank you. Any other members of council have a question for Mr. Reid? All right, moving then to our final candidate to speak this evening, Michael Wilson. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I'd just like to start by saying I'll keep it relatively brief considering the lateness of the evening, but I'm kind of blown away by the other candidates' qualifications and passion. I think no matter who is successful tonight, we'll all be in better hands after this event takes place. As for myself, I have about a 36 year career in municipal workplace. I worked for Town of Aurora, Town of Newmarket. I worked Pickering College, which is a private arena facility. And I worked my way up from, what was 30 years ago have been known as a rink rat, not anymore, of course, but you start there and work my way up to a lead hand. So a bit of a leadership role there. And finally to a facility supervisor. So pools, arenas, park shop, some work in public works as well. And the big thing I kind of learned out of that is, I think I had a great work ethic and I worked hard and I was good at my duties and tasks. But as you gain a leadership perspective, it's not so much about the infrastructure and the building and the task completing as the people, because just because I know how to flood a rink or paint a rink or cut a park, now I have to motivate other people to do that work for the municipality. And the challenge of guiding someone and mentoring someone, correcting somebody is far more than learning how to do a relatively, simple, straightforward work task. And one of the things, you learn is that it's not a popularity contest. As much as you'd like to be friends and have a great relationship with everybody you work with, it's not always possible. Sometimes there's hard decisions and hard, challenges that you have to deal with, and you have to still show up at work the next day and have a good enough relationship to keep on trucking, so to speak. I was fortunate enough to be elected chief steward by our facility staff, and in that role, I was representing 30 people, not myself, not my own desires and goals, but whatever the group felt was best for them moving forward. That's what we had to try to achieve. And later on, when I became a supervisor of facilities, I was able to work with the management side in much the same way. Because at the end of the day, quite often it's the same goal that both sides want. It's just a different way to get there. We all want to come to work, be happy, be safe, and go home. And it's just how that's going to look on paper. And I think so a little quick background is 5 years ago, I bought a house here. A few years before that, my wife and I were coming up and staying at a bed and breakfast just off of Highway 17 to fish the local lakes, Lake Nosbonsing, where I was today for about 7 hours, and Lake Talon, Turtle Lake, Trout Lake, Nipissing, Calendar Bay, of course. And so that's how we kind of got reintroduced. We had some history with North Bay in the area many, many years ago, but our recent history is coming up here to recreate and fish. And we just love the spot. It was, we're not on the water, but we're in the middle of, I'm 2 minutes from the boat ramp on Nosbonsing, 15 minutes from Talon Lake, and all the other lakes that are close by. And by coming here and becoming involved in the local, we've met just the most fantastic people. And I'll start with Joanne and Darcy Watson, who ran Cedar Gables Bed and Breakfast. Just an amazing family to welcome us to the area originally. And Thomas, who runs the bait store in North Bay, lives on Lake Talon. Like, the list just goes on and on about the people in the area. The area is what it is. It's beautiful. It's rural. The lakes are just incredible. But it's the people that, I think make the difference. And, kind of going back to the town's motto of small community with big heart, is just because we can't build a double rink facility or a big shiny library or a fitness center doesn't mean you can't still serve the people in the best way you can with the tools you have on hand. And I think that's about it.
Okay, thank you. Is there questions from the members of council? Okay, I'll kick off again. Just generally looking at the Township of Banfield, and you said you've been in it, I believe, 5 years now. And welcome, and thank you for noticing what we take for granted pretty much on a daily basis for us lifers that have been here. But when we had an economic development organization on the go, that was the thing that, pretty well every meeting that we were having to kick ourselves and say, we have what people want, and but we got to tell them about it, or we got to find a way to get them here so that they can look at it, and then the rest sells itself. And it would seem that's what's happened with you and Mr. Reed and others. So good for that it's working naturally, as opposed to through initiatives of economic development or other such things at this point in time, at least. Having said that, it welcomed you and it attracted you to come here. What would be the thing that you, if you were in a position of policy governance, such as being a municipal councillor, what's the one grating thing about this area that you would take as the first challenge on to say, this can't continue and we have to fix that? What would it be?
Nothing like jumps out at me. Some of the kind of smaller things maybe would be like property standards by law enforcement. There's some absolutely stunning little houses and some bigger houses here, and then there's some properties that seem not to maybe live up to whatever the standard is set out in the bylaw, and a lot of times it's through no fault of people that live there. That it's that way, but to find working solutions to help people make changes to their properties, stuff like that. Some of the earlier candidates spoke about bringing in business and expansion and growth to the area, and everybody wants that because of the tax revenue and the other opportunities it brings, employment opportunities, but it has to be controlled and it has to be what's right for the spot it's going to. You don't want uncontrolled growth. You don't want growth that's going to damage another aspect of the municipality. You know, we heard the other meeting about people in an area that weren't crazy about kind of the bed and breakfast that was going on their lake. You know, it disrupted what they had as a nice little niche community. You know, but you can't always control that, and that's going to be a decision, I guess, the town will have to make going forward, is how to address that type of situation. So nothing, you know, leaps out at me horribly, just some of the small things like that, perhaps.
Okay, thank you. Questions from other members of council? Hearing none. Just to close out. Oh, yes, Councillor Vinepour.
Yeah, thanks. I would just like to go back to Jason and ask Jason what, looking at his resume was just quite impressive also, of what you see for the future also of our little town, and what you would like to help out in.
Sure, thanks. I think COVID has brought a very interesting time in our culture. So we're seeing much of the push out of the South, wanting to and realizing that the workforce, and it's not just retired workforce anymore, it's actually active workforce that are realizing they can actually work almost anywhere now remotely. The fact that Banfield can support that remote work. I've worked remotely even when my job is in North Bay. We have great Wi-Fi networks, no problem with cell service, all of those marketing opportunities to take advantage of the shifting culture within the workforce, to draw them to be that place that they can be 2 minutes away from fishing, as Mike likes to be, to do that while balancing their work life and not sitting on the 407 or the 401. Huge market there. As somebody who transplanted from North Bay to a smaller community, it's not just the people from Toronto that we're looking at. There are several people looking to displace out of North Bay, and we need to position ourselves as that place of choice. We are a great highway drive away. It's not far. So being able to market ourselves, to be able to be that community, and the age group, and it's not necessarily the retired people. We're going to get active employees and business owners coming to our community, wanting to live here, work out of here. That will help precipitate businesses relocating to our area. And I think we can position ourselves as the community that people will want to actually establish their business in as well.
All right, thanks.
Okay, just for my current existing members of council that are scratching their heads, wondering, I asked a question earlier in the interrogation about the 4 roads to the north of Highway 17. And I did so deliberately, knowing that there's only 3. But it's Talon, Pine Lake, and Blue Sea Road North, or Line 3 Road North, I should say. So there is no 4th road to the north of Highway 17, but that was a trick question, just for the fun of our meeting. So do the members of council want a 2-minute refreshment break? Not that we need to prolong this meeting anymore, but we're going to close out the interview process here. We're going to take a 2-minute walk for refreshment. When we return, the CAO is going to walk us through the voting process of how that's going to roll out. And we will then engage in selection, if that's acceptable to everybody. Okay, so we'll be right back here. It looks at 9:58 right now. At 10 p.m. we're going to be back here, and we're going to get briefed by the CAO on that selection process.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
Will we need a motion to continue past 10 p.m.?
Is it 10 or 11 in our bylaw?
I will double check during the break and come back to you, but I believe it is
Okay.
10.
If necessary, yes, we'll do that continuation motion to have a longer than normal meeting. Okay, thank you.
I thought it was 10:30 on today.
I'll double check.
Just waiting on one member of council to return. And it appears that we need to pass an extending motion of council to go past 10 p.m. It's in our procedural bylaw that if the meeting's drone on, that we need to all agree to continue. So that'll be our next order of business. Andre, yes, go ahead.
I've confirmed it's 10:30.
10:30, okay.
Yes.
We may well need it anyway, but at 10:30 we'll visit that issue then if it comes up. Okay, so everybody's back in position and ready to hear from the CAO on a briefing on the voting process. It will take, well, I'll let him speak to it. Go ahead, sir.
I'm curious what the other half of that sentence is. It will take what?
Well, it's a true majority in that it 50% plus 1 means 3 when you only have 4 voters. So that's
right.
what it comes to. Yeah.
All right, well, it's a very simple process, but before I do that, I just want to commend the five gentlemen who made presentations this evening. And as you've been already told, thank you for submitting your interest in serving the community. And I was impressed with all of your motivation and passion to serve. That's always nice to bring that sort of enthusiasm into a council. So thank you all very much for your interest. The process is very simple. The acting deputy clerk is going to have a voting round followed by a voting round until somebody has 3 votes. That's a majority. We only have 4 people, so a majority is 2 plus 1, or I'm sorry, a majority plus 1. We need 3 votes. Andre will call out your name alphabetically and ask the 4 members of council individually. It's what they call a recorded vote, whether they support your nomination, yay or nay. So we'll do that alphabetically. All 4 members of council will be asked to vote one at a time. They're only allowed 1 vote for a candidate per round. It is a public show of hands, or a verbal declaration rather, yay or nay. And at the end of that round, if no one has the requisite at least 3 votes, then the candidates with the less amount, candidate or candidates of the lesser amounts, will be removed from the list, and we'll go into round 2 and vote for another slate of candidates. So that's very simply the process. If we do have a tie, I'm going to have to defer that back to council, because as the mayor indicated at the beginning, there was some reluctance to go with the proposal on breaking a tie. So I'll leave that to them if we have a tie, and perhaps we will not. So we'll wait and see. So unless there are some questions, I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, the acting deputy clerk, and as I said, she will go down the list alphabetically and call each member of council one by one on a recorded vote. And then at the end of that round, she will announce what the votes were. Okay, Andre?
Okay. Jason Corbett. Councillor Foisey.
Nay.
Councillor Lagasse.
Yes.
Mayor McLaren.
Nay.
Councillor Vaillancourt.
Nay.
Next, Steve Featherstone. Councillor Foisey.
Nay.
Councillor Lagasse, you've already voted, so I will put you as a nay. Mayor McLaren.
Nay.
Councillor Vaillancourt.
Yes.
Next, Daniel McInnes. Councillor Foisey.
Yay. Yes.
Was that a yes? Okay. Councillor Lagasse already voted. Mayor McLaren.
Nay.
Sorry, was that a nay?
A nay, yes.
Okay. Councillor Vaillancourt, you already voted. Next, Alan Reed. Councillor Foisey already voted. Councillor Lagasse. Mayor McLaren.
Yay. Yes.
And Councillor Vaillancourt already voted. So I would say Michael Wilson is out since every other councillor has voted.
Thank you very much, everybody. I appreciate the opportunity, and good luck to the rest of the candidates. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So Andre, would you just please announce what the votes were for each of the candidates?
Jason Corbett received 1 vote. Steve Featherstone received 1 vote. Daniel McInnes received 1 vote, and Alan Reed received 1 vote.
So now we will go to round 2, and it needs to be said that you are not required to vote the same as you did in round 1, because obviously if you do, we will have the same result. So starting at the top again, Andre, would you move down the list and ask for a yay or nay with each of the members, please?
Jason Corbett, Councillor Foisey,
Nay.
nay. Councillor Legacy,
Yes.
Mayor McLaren,
Yes.
Councillor Vaillancourt,
Yes.
I have 3 votes for Jason Corbett, therefore I believe he is acclaimed.
Yes.
Correct?
That caught me by surprise. I didn't realize our process was over by that. So, okay. I understand what you're saying, though. Yes, we've achieved majority. So the CAO has something he wants to say.
Well, no, I'm just surprised that it would surprise anyone. It was we had 3 votes for 1 candidate, and that's what's required.
Well, I'm surprised in that we were all stuck at 1 and all of a sudden the majority formed. So that's why it took me aback a little bit, that's all. But it only takes a reconsideration, I guess, of a position or 2. But
fair enough. Andre, we need a resolution indicating that. And I will tell the other candidates and Mr. Corbett that he will be required to take the declaration of office, and he will be appointed by bylaw, which will happen at the next council meeting, next scheduled council meeting. We're not sure what date that would be. And in the meantime, the acting deputy clerk treasurer and myself and other of my colleagues, we will provide a package of information to sort of bring you up to speed, so that when you do sit as a sitting member of council at the next council meeting, you will be at least have a superficial apprisement of the issues that we have. Okay. And once again, thank you all candidates for your interest. And I'm sorry that there can only be 1 winner in this case, but they're just a reminder that there is an election coming up in November of 2022 all across Ontario. So if you still have a passion and an interest in serving, then perhaps that's something you might want to reconsider.
yes, I just reiterate that. Like, as I mentioned from the outset, there's a sting in this process, and that certainly is evident on the faces of some of the participants, and I apologize for that, but we had a very strong field of candidates here in this process, and there's certainly room for all your input, whether it's officially at the table or you can dial any of us up anytime and be a player here, because you're all active and valuable members of our community. So that's what I want to share with you. All right, thank you. So as the CAO has indicated, the process is closed out as far as the selection of a councillor. The appointment will happen at the next council meeting. So that was our next item of business on our agenda, the appointment of a councillor. There's a motion, pre-prepared motion. Do we want to acknowledge that by way of motion tonight, and the official bylaw and so forth? Motion.
We need to pass that resolution.
Yeah, starts the process, but until you've sworn your oath and everything else, you're not officially in the fold yet. So I take a mover and a seconder for the appointment motion. Moved by Councillor Legacy, seconded by Councillor Vaillancourt. Jason Corbett be appointed as councillor for the Corporation of the Township of Banfield for the remainder of the 2018-2022 term of council. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Okay, and now, perhaps much less contentious, let's hope, than our agonizing process to pick a counselor. We have a vacancy as well on the library board. And there was a number of applicants for that, to which we're thankful, but the library board did us the gift of selecting and nominating a candidate for us to choose from on their behalf. So they've suggested a nominee to us, and it makes our process so much easier. So I would take a mover and a seconder to appoint the new library nominee. Moved by Councillor Vinecore, seconded by Councillor Lagasse, that Gail Johnston be appointed as a member of the Banfield Public Library Board for the Corporation of the Township of Banfield for the remainder of the 2018-2022 term of council. Any questions? All in favor? Carried. Policy to fill a council vacancy. Well, what are the odds of that being something we'd talk about? It's in there in our agenda package, and it speaks at length of the tie-breaking method that we were ill at ease with earlier in the meeting. Is it something that you want to refer for tonight, or do we feel comfortable adopting the policy should we be there in the future? Councillor Boise had a question.
Yeah, you jumped the motion.
Did I?
Getting late, I guess.
Appointment of the library board member is what I have next that I thought we did.
Number 15.
Number 15. Oh, I'm still in correspondence and information.
Oh, sorry. I was looking at the. Sorry.
I'm at item 10, correspondence and information, number 3.
Okay, sorry.
Policy, yeah, no problem. It's getting late. The CAO had something he wanted to say, I thought.
Well, no, simply, we don't need to spend any time on this at all. The recommendation is that if council is of a mind, we propose to present a bylaw for first and second reading only at a future council meeting. It doesn't have to be the next one. And we'll give you a time to have a look at that policy. If you don't want a policy, that's fine. That's a guideline.
Okay.
So that's all we're suggesting tonight, Your Worship.
I think in the interest of time, we'll set it aside for tonight then.
That's all we wanted to do.
Okay, very good. Item 4, request for proposal for an official plan zoning bylaw review. As we're all aware, the Director of Planning and Development suggested to us, based upon a number of contentious things that have arisen in our official plan and zoning bylaw, just to name a couple off the top, RVs on vacant lots and
Airbnb,
short-term rental accommodation, being a couple of them that have been on the discussion paper of late. Our zoning bylaw and official plan generally don't speak very much or very clearly to those matters, and they're an official plan and zoning bylaw review allows public input again related to that, because there's open houses that are held and things like that. So the first step in the process is to, council has agreed to review the official plan and zoning bylaw. In that, we need to launch a request for proposal for a consultant to help us with that. Yes, Councillor Lagasse.
I have a couple of questions. Well, one actually. On page 6, 7, time frame. The project shall be completed by December 30th, 2022. My problem is this will be in the new council. So this young council will have to address this official plan. They're not trained for it. If there'll be new ones, and they'll be addressing this. I was wondering about the time frame, if it could be either before that or after that, giving time for the new council? And I suggest after that.
Okay, good point, because I didn't catch that, and you're absolutely right in that it's a complicated and quite wordy thing for a brand new council to have handed to them and say you need to implement this. So
And not only that, Mayor McLaren, but the last official plan that we did in 2012, which I was part of, it took the whole committee to work with the planning group and which was and with our clerk, our planning with Doug, to review and to not only the official plan but the zoning bylaw. So I suggest that this be one to the next council, if it's not this one, because they'll need training before they can even look at these documents.
okay, so on that then, and I'm asking anybody for guidance here, do you want to refer it for tonight, or do you want to accept the request for proposal, noting that we probably need to change that date? Yes, CEO Johnston.
Well, I think two things. First of all, we need to speak to our director of planning about that, because there is official plan review and amendment and zoning amendment is very strictly regulated by the province of Ontario. And secondly, just to point out, I mean, Councillor, I agree, I understand what Councillor Lagasse was saying, but just to point out, December 2022 is just before the new council takes office. It's all done during this council. Okay, that's why it was proposed the way it was. It's all done by this council.
Okay.
Okay, so in that regard, knowing that it'll, in all likelihood, if we make it to the finish line, be the council that we're looking at here. Are we okay with the motion tonight then? To launch the request for proposal?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Yes.
I take a mover and a seconder in that regard then. Moved by Councillor Foisey, seconded by Councillor Lagasse, that council approves the request for proposal document for the official plan and zoning bylaw review and update, and that the Director of Planning and Development proceed with the execution and advertising of a request for proposal. Any questions?
I do
All
have
in
a
favor?
comment.
Oh, yes, question?
Just have a comment, because the PPS at the same time, 2014, I believe, changed it from a 5-year review to a 10-year review. And so that 50,000 that's in there allotted for that will it's good timing, because now it'll be 10 years in 2022, because we did it in 2012. So it's time to redo it. I agree.
Okay.
Yeah.
All in favor? Carried. Ombudsman report recommendations. As we're aware, there's now there's something I did skip there, because I have a motion here related to first, second reading to fill the council vacancy, but oh, that's related to the policy. Okay, set aside. So we're moving to the Ombudsman report recommendations, and we need to acknowledge the Ombudsman's final report and post it on our website. And vast majority, or if not all, of the recommendations from the Ombudsman was that we note with greater detail who the staff members were present in whatever meetings we hold by name, not just their positions. So that down the road, when somebody looks at the minutes, the individual was named as opposed to just the position they held with the company at that point in time. So yes, CAO Johnston.
Well, yeah, just to confirm that we did discuss those recommendations when the draft report went to council, and I did indicate to you that as far as I was concerned, I have no problem with the three of them. The fourth one was about providing more detail in the minutes regarding discussions and where there was not a decision made. And I take exception to that. And our new incoming counselor, I'm not asking for a comment, Jason, but might understand this as well. The Municipal Act makes it very clear that the municipal minutes, it's a very simple line in the municipal act. Municipal minutes are to note decisions made by council without note or comment. So I was a little bit surprised by the Office of the Ombudsman saying that we need to flesh out our minutes and talk about discussions. That would complicate minutes. That would make it a very subjective function for the recording clerk or the deputy clerk treasurer. But in the interest of putting this behind us, I'm not going to argue that point. We can do our due diligence on all four. But as I said, I did indicate some concern about that one point. But I'm willing to waive that. I am. You don't have to.
Okay, thank you. Well, there again, the recommendations are that we try to flesh out with greater detail the minutes going forward, and we'll do our best, but it doesn't mean we need to mark down what color everybody's shirt was that night either. So we'll do our best to comply, I guess is what we're.
That's all we can do, Your Worship.
Yep. Pardon?
That's all we can do, Your Worship. You're right.
Okay. So I take a.
Councilor Lagasse was just pointing out that we need to pass that motion.
Yes, well, we'll do that next if I can get a mover and a seconder to accept the Ombudsman's report.
Okay, sorry.
Moved by Councillor Foisey, seconded by Councillor Vinecore, that the Council of the Township of Banfield acknowledges receipt of the Ombudsman final report of July 2021 and hereby states that it will implement recommendations 1, 2, 3, and 4 and will immediately post the report on the municipal website. Any questions? All in favor? Carried. Okay, because we've chatted a lot, we need to pass an extending motion to go past 10:30 p.m. as our procedural bylaw requires. So the motion will say just that council agrees to function past 10:30 p.m. And I would take a mover and a seconder for that. Moved by Councillor Foisey, seconded by Councillor Lagasse, that council agrees to function past the hour of 10:30 p.m. for this meeting. All in favor? Carried. Okay. I'll slow down a bit for our recording clerk, maybe.
Yes, please.
Application to license the Shore Road allowance from Sean Roy. The information was in our package. I would take a mover and a seconder for that. Moved by Councillor Foisey, seconded by Councillor Vinecore. Where Sean Roy has submitted an application for license to use a portion of the Shore Road allowance on their property at 104 Bay Street to erect an 8x10 shed on the Lakeshore Road allowance. And whereas the Director of Planning and Development has reviewed this application and recommends to Council to approve Sean Roy's proposal to license a portion of the Shore Road allowance as per the attached application, with a condition that all permits be obtained from the North Bay Mattawa Conservation Authority, Oceans and Fisheries, and the Ministry of Natural Resources and Forestry, if required, prior to issuing the license. Be it hereby resolved that Council approves of this recommendation. Any questions? All in favor? Carried. Firefighter applications. We have a motion that encompasses all of them, thankfully, and I would take a mover and a seconder for it. Moved by Councillor Vinecore, seconded by Councillor Foisey. Whereas Fire Chief Gilles Lebel has recommended to Council that the applications submitted by Hannah Longpre, Jenna Akour, Cody Lassard, and Allison Armstrong be accepted as volunteer firefighters for the Township of Banfield's Volunteer Fire Department. Be it hereby resolved that Council approves of this recommendation. Any questions? All in favor? Carried. Moving now to information. Report on Bill 177, the Stronger, Fairer Ontario Act. Item 2, Main Street Recovery Act, proclamation of amendments to the Municipal Act and the City of Toronto Act. Item 3, correspondence from Amy Cullimore and Robin Edwards, 98 Grey Rock Lane, regarding the Airbnb and their concerns with my chairing of the meeting that evening. And they've written to me directly, and I will respond to them. I have responded to them indicating that I've received their correspondence. I just haven't replied in full yet. Item 4, Township of Strong, Dr. Jim Cherko, Health Unit, Medical Officer of Health, re-support for public health funding for 2022. And the 5th one, the noise impact study. Yes, Councillor Foisey.
Yes, I had a fairly lengthy presentation with that. Can this be referred to next meeting?
The noise impact study? Okay, I was wondering why it was on the docket there, but
I have
yeah, we
a
can.
5-page presentation for that, so.
Okay.
Not right now.
We'll look forward to that at the next meeting then.
Yes, please. Things won't change till then.
Okay. And there's no new business that I'm aware of. Confirmatory bylaw. We've made it to near finish. I take a mover and a seconder for the confirmatory bylaw. Moved by Councillor Vinecore, seconded by Councillor Lagasse. First, council deems it expedient to pass 3 readings of the following bylaw at this session. Be it hereby resolved that a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council from June 8th, 2021 to July 13th, 2021 be read a first, second, and third time, passed and numbered 2021-20, and that the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and clerk, sealed with the seal of the corporation, and be engrossed in the bylaw book. All in favor? Carried. I had a flag up there from the recording clerk. Yes.
Those dates are actually wrong. It should be July 13th to August 17th.
I see that now, and if I hadn't have been tired, I would have caught that. Is everybody still generally in acceptance of allowing the dates to be amended? Okay, I'm seeing agreement from the members of council, so you can edit them at your end there appropriately. All right, so that's the end of the confirmatory bylaw as amended with the correct dates leading up to tonight. I take a mover and a seconder to adjourn this meeting. Moved by Councillor Lagasse, seconded by Councillor Vinecore, that this meeting be adjourned at 10:31 p.m. All in favor? Carried, and thank you.
Good night, and thank you for the meeting.
Thank you, everyone.
Welcome, Jason.
Thank you.
Welcome, Jason.
Thank you, everyone. I look forward to working with you.
For sure. Have a good night.
Welcome.
Thank you very much.